Johnston here. This is the Real Estate and Money Show, and tonight is episode number 31. We're going to talk about audits, the audit process, and how to beat tax audits in Canada, because this guy here, Bob Hamilton, the Commissioner of the Canada Revenue Agency, is himself a criminal of the worst type, the cowardly type that uses paperwork to take decent human beings' homes and money away from them. My name is KevinJJohnston. I can crush your GST debts. Oh, I sue the Canada Revenue Agency and I win. I am your number one tax strategist, and let's do this. I get rid of all your served debts. I can absolutely crush your corporate income tax and destroy your personal income tax. Yeah, I can't wait to do it either. Oh, everyone, we got to dive right into this because we have a lot to cover. Just a quick thing here on real estate. There's a large number of my clients are coming to me now not knowing what to do with their properties. So there's been inheritances taking place now all over Canada. Obviously, people over the age of 80 are at high risk of dying, especially in Canada, with awful food, awful health care, and in general, just an awful society. So what should you do? Albert, if you owe over $48,000 in served, you get a hold of me, I'm going to get rid of that debt. That's what I do. So if you do inherit a home, or you inherit a bank account, gold, silver, stocks, bonds, whatever it might be, don't get a lawyer involved. They're going to take everything from you. Here's one of the problems with lawyers. When homes go into what they call probate, but it's not really probate, it's just a lawyer taking your money and sitting on it. The lawyer, for some reason, who's supposed to work for you, always calls the CRA and asks the CRA, hey, guys, we got some money from a dead person, and I think we got to give you some. How much would you like? That's what your lawyer does to you. Takes your money and gives it to them. Albert, if you tried, you got to use my website, KevinJJohnston.me. That's real funny. So the lawyers, somehow there always seems to be some slimy lawyer that becomes your probate lawyer, even though you didn't ask for it. I got a lot of clients who are asking me, how do I get rid of this lawyer? Well, you contact me, you hire me, and I get rid of that lawyer, because if they're not going to release your funds directly to you immediately upon my demand for doing so, we're going to register a complaint with the Law Society and call the cops for theft. Because once the lawyer's been fired, that's your money. He can't give it to CRA. He's got to give it to you, because he's not acting in any capacity at all. So we got to think that through. Also, if it comes to a death in the family, some of the arrangements that you should make would be to organize disposal of the body, whether it be burial or that new freezing technology they use, or cremation, whatever it is. Make that arrangement. The next arrangement that all of you want to make is start to drain every single bank account. You've got to find everything out that the dead person, your loved one, had, and start to take it all. Bank accounts, take the death certificate in, drain the account, everything. If they had credit cards, spend them to their absolute limit. It's not going to matter. What are they going to do about it? Spend them to, just one of the best things you can do if your mom, dad, uncle, aunt, whoever it might be, had a really good credit rating and they got credit cards with a lot of space on them, buy Esso gift cards, Sobeys gift cards, Walmart gift cards, anything that you know that you can use for groceries for the next 10 years. Just load up, man. Load up. The next thing you want to do after you drain all the bank accounts is you want to make a decision on how you're going to hide the house. Do you put the house into your own name, which I do not recommend, or do you register a numbered corporation and put the house into the numbered corporation, which I highly recommend, and that is something that we know how to do. So you should contact me and get all of that done. Get the house into a numbered corporation. Do you know at what point you should talk to the CRA? About a year after your loved one dies. Now, take your time, man. Breathe. Move all the money. Look at their will. Try your best to fulfill the wishes that they had for you. Try. Do your very best. Give it a shot. But breathe. Live your life. The CRA is not important. They're not part of your family. You owe them nothing. You don't have to speak to these people if you don't want to in any way. You're not legally obligated to talk to them at all. And at the same time, everyone, all they're going to do is give you a difficult time and take your stuff. So you talk to them last. About a year later, maybe two, that's when you can do the final taxes on your loved one. And should the CRA make an assessment of your loved one at that point, you can appeal it on behalf of your loved one. And then a year later, when it comes up, you can say, look, I'd like to subpoena my father who's dead, but he's kind of dead. So that case is going to go absolutely nowhere. And when you appeal something now in Canada, because the CRA is so far behind on everything that they're doing, it might take a good 18 to 24 months to get your appeal heard, right? Which is great. One more thing is absolutely awesome. This is some of the best news I've heard all week. In the city of Hamilton, Ontario in Canada, 48 kilometers west of Toronto, there's a tax courthouse. Now, it's not really a court. It's a tribunal where judges pretend to be presiding over a court. They shut down the Hamilton tax court because they're saying there's so much gun violence from all the foreigners. We don't know why they're so angry, and we're afraid of getting shot. So they shut down the courthouse. That's one less tax courthouse that Canada has. So these appeals that we're going to do won't get heard for maybe 2 years now, perhaps 2.5. So there's all kinds of time that we can buy to move all your assets out when we are appealing tax assessments brought forward by the thing. Okay, audio sucks. Everyone's telling me the audio sucks. Let's have a look here. Check, check, check. One, I don't know why the audio sucks. I do apologize for that. Let me switch microphones. I'll do that for you right now. Okay, everyone, if I can get all of you to maybe make some commentary and tell me what the sound is like. It sounds good on TikTok, guys, but it seems like on the browser, the sound is garbage. So I tell you what I'll do. I'm going to crash out. I'll come right back in 10 seconds. Okay, everyone, I'm back. So if I could, yeah, all right, guys. Can you let me know how the audio is now, please? This is a problem that we've had before. I do apologize profusely for that. Check, check, check. Could I get some commentary, please, in Rumble and Facebook? Is that better? Okay, so that's what it was. We had to close the browser and come back in. Do apologize for the delay. All right. So getting back to what I'm saying is the CRA, you do everything last. In no way, shape, or form do we care at all about what the CRA has to say about our dead loved ones. That's it. Okay, good. So tonight, why would you put your house into a corp? Section 85. Okay. You put your house into a numbered corporation because it's incredibly easy for you to decide how many shares you're going to own. Let's say 10 people want to own a house. You put it into a numbered corporation. And this way you can just share and trade your shares back and forth as opposed to screwing around with other ownership records that cost a lot of money. Put them in a numbered corporations. If you know how to do a family trust, Jojo, then I suggest a family trust. But the numbered corporation is far better than ever putting your house into your own name. It is ridiculous to even consider putting it into your own name. I wouldn't do it now. Not ever. Not ever. It's too easy to lose when the CRA has a way to hurt you. And that would be it. Putting a lien on your property, that hurts immensely. And these scumbags, they don't care about who they hurt. They don't care about who dies as a result of their actions. If they feel like taking your money, they simply will. So that brings me to why we are here today. We are here today because we managed to get our hands on the Government of Canada Income Tax Audit Manual. That's right. So we're going to go through the audit manual for the CRA, and that is what we have here on the screen in front of us. Let's just maximize this, and we're going to zoom in. The Canada Revenue Agency has a manual which teaches its auditors, losers, criminals, how to be better criminals. That's what it does. So if we have a look at this thing, this is chapter 10. And if you look across the top there, you'll see it's got 125 pages on it. And that is positively ridiculous that a document would have this many pages. All right. Chapter 10, this chapter is under review and an updated version will be released at a later date. Maybe, maybe not. We don't care. All right. Table of contents. Look at all this crazy stuff in here. Look at this stuff. I'm going to read out what's in here and I'm going to interpret the Canada Revenue Agency's handbook on audits. All right. So the first thing is I want all of you to understand that an audit is the following. The Canada Revenue Agency wants your money, but they have absolutely no idea if they're entitled to it. And they have absolutely no idea what you have. And the only way for them to find out, everybody, is if they ask you and you and you and you answer them. If you answer them, you're absolutely screwed. Because now they've got you by the short and the curlies. Now they're going to grill you on absolutely everything. So let's talk about, oh, by the way, you don't have to cooperate with this. That's the best part. So if they say that they're going to audit you, you say, no, thank you. We're going to decline respectfully. By the way, here's your trespass notice. Stay away from my business, my family, my wife, my kids, my church. We can ban them from your property. And this is something that I do all the time for my clients. We absolutely have to get rid of the CRA and let them know that there's absolutely no way that we're going to cooperate with them at all, period. So we're going to read some of this for you. Chapter 10.1.0, Interviewing the Taxpayer, Introduction. The purpose of the interview is to gain critical information to help the auditor understand the business, its nature, its cycles, its revenue base, its customer base, and so on. The inherent risk and the risks of this that are specific to this taxpayer, the extent of the books and records, and the cycle in which they are created. Begin to assess the adequacy of books and records. Start to assess credibility or knowledge of the taxpayer and prepare coherent and relevant reports. But what if you said, you're not coming in this building, we are not cooperating, and get the hell out of here and do it now. And we will conduct the audit for you and we will send you what we determine. Reading on in this document, it says, this is also a good time to reconfirm the schedule of the audit and to agree on the frequency of the auditor contact and the expected response time for the audit queries, which means that they're going to ask you questions. The CRA auditor will ask you questions. And if you're silly and stupid and answer them, well, they're going to keep this relationship and dialogue going. But if you do what I do, and that's we research who they are and we put a nice big sign on my client's door saying that your name is banned from this property, as is the CRA, they can't enter the premises, just like that. Depending on the size of the business and the amount of segregation of the duties, it may not be possible to receive relevant answers to all interview questions from one individual. But you can tell your staff, we are not talking to the CRA. Anyone who talks to the CRA is going to be in violation of the Privacy Act, RSO 1990, and you will be subsequently terminated. And you are allowed to terminate people for divulging company secrets to someone who does not have a court order to get them from you. It's only something that they can do with a court order, and that court order has to have specific names on it. So if someone says, here's a court order, answer questions, I'm going to read the whole thing. I'm going to sit there. I'll spend 3 hours deliberately reading each and every line. And I'll just be, scratching things I disagree with and so on. But if my name's not on it after I've wasted all of their time, I'm going to hand it back and say, I will not be cooperating with this. My name's not on it. Right? It's that simple. And they're going to be angry because I killed 3 hours of their time. But that's what I do. I kill the time of the government. All right. For example, this is a prime example. For example, the taxpayer prepares all contracts for business, collects all payments, and makes all purchases. The spouse, who is a bookkeeper, creates all invoices, makes all deposits, pays all non-cash expenditures, and creates a set of books, a general ledger, and a synoptic journal. The representative prepares returns for other taxes such as goods and services tax, provincial tax, and once a year summarizes the bookkeeper's journals, makes adjustments, and files the tax return. So they're referring most likely to the accountant in this case. In this example, it would be important to discuss the business with the taxpayer and the bookkeeper, ask the bookkeeper and representative questions about the books and the records and the amounts on the tax return, and finally discuss any lifestyle and source of funds items with the taxpayer and the spouse. Wow. Do you see right there what I've always said? They will question your accountant. And if your accountant is a gutless piece of crap, like most of them are, your accountant is going to just spill the beans and say, well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess. That's what they'll do. Your accountant will screw you large. And we do not want to be screwed large by your accountant. So don't hire an accountant. Hire me. All right. Because I will act as your legal agent, which means they cannot call me to testify against you. And if I'm your legal representative, they can't question me about your business. So let's just say, for argument's sake, I watched you put 5 pounds of cocaine up your nose, and they start asking me questions about you. I got to say, I'm sorry, I can't answer those questions. I'm the legal representative of this person. Well, we think that he has a cocaine problem. I can't answer your questions. I'm terribly sorry. No, it's classic lawyer client privilege. You actually have that with me when you hire me, because clause 15 of the Taxpayers Bill of Rights allows you to hire me, even though I'm not a lawyer. Alrighty. They also say here that they're going to question you and you and you and your wife or your husband or your boyfriend, your lover, all 5 of your wives, whatever it might be. They're going to question all of you about your lifestyle. The nerve of these people. So what do you do for fun? How much alcohol do you drink? Do you smoke? Oh, yes. Which brand? Do you smoke cigars? Oh, yeah. Which brand? Have you ever brought cigars in from Cuba? How often do you smoke? What bank accounts do you have? What's in your bank accounts? Do you go to the movies often? How about bowling? They're going to ask you everything. The correct answer is I don't answer questions, or, go F yourself. You pick one. Doesn't make a difference. You don't answer the questions. Okay. You just don't talk to the CRA. It may not be appropriate to interview all relevant parties at the same time, since the taxpayer may not wish to answer lifestyle questions in front of a non-related bookkeeper. How about this? Don't answer the questions at all. Kick them out of your building, or don't let them in the first place. It may be necessary to interview the relevant parties separately. They're not police. And even if they are police, you have the right to remain silent. Remain silent. This should be determined during the initial contact with the taxpayer. For more information, go to chapter 9.18.1 on initial contact. Hey, can we get that? Can you send me a link to that? That's chapter 9.18.1. Thanks. Before disclosing details about the audit and possibly divulging confidential information with someone other than the taxpayer, the auditor must verify if the third party is an authorized representative. So could you imagine if the CRA came to your place to question you on your taxes and I'm there? Could you just imagine how much fun that would be? I'd simply hand them a letter saying, I represent the client. And if they were to sit down, I'd make it extremely uncomfortable for them. Like, have a glass of water. Oh, geez, accidentally spill it. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that. Hot cup of coffee. And I'd fall over. Oh my God, is that all over your lap? I'm so sorry about that. Why are you people here? I would grill them. I would question them. I wouldn't stop with the questions. What's your name? Where do you live? What's your home address? What kind of car do you drive? I noticed you showed up in an Audi. Pretty expensive car for a guy that works for the government. How much do you make? And what kind of taxes do you pay? What color underwear are you wearing right now? What's your wife's name? How many kids do you have? Oh, yeah? How old? What are their names? Where do they go to school? What's their teacher's name? What time does school start? What time are they off school? Do their kids play hockey? Oh, really? What team? That's what I do. I question police when they question me. I just keep questioning them. And whenever I come across any government agent of any kind, I just keep rifling the questions at them. And they usually answer them. It's really weird. So I always go on the attack with these people. All right. So I'm just going to have a quick peek here. There's a bit more. If there is a third party at the initial interview, verbal assurance from the taxpayer that a third party is allowed to be present is acceptable. Right. So could you imagine that the CRA needs a handbook to state that if you, the taxpayer, has a lawyer or a legal representative there, that it's okay to talk? Because the CRA, they've told some of my clients, well, you can't have a lawyer here. We're the CRA. This is not a court. You can't have a lawyer. We are the tax authority of the country. Right? And some people, unfortunately, fall for that. You can have a lawyer present for anything. If you're at McDonald's and the girl says, would you like to supersize your fries? I don't answer questions. Please consult my lawyer. And your lawyer can tell them if you want large fries or medium fries. Like that, you can have a lawyer represent you on everything, especially the CRA. During the initial interview, confirm with the taxpayer if a copy of correspondence is also to be sent to the representative. That would be you telling them, send everything to my lawyer or my legal representative, and this conversation's over. If a copy of the correspondence is sent to a representative before communicating with the representative, confirm that there is a current authorization on file. If there's no authorization on file or it has expired, make sure the taxpayer completes the proper authorization. It is mandatory to include a copy of all correspondence in the audit file. All right, so what you can do at that point, I'm just telling you what you could do as the taxpayer. You could say, I don't know how to fill those forms out. I'm so sorry. If you give me 120 days, I'll figure it out and send you the form. No? Oh, get out, by the way. Thank you. When interviewing employees, do not let your employees be questioned by these people, and make it very clear, ladies and gentlemen, we have an agent, a legal agent working for us. He will answer all questions. Do not speak to the CRA or anyone else about this corporation. You'll be in violation of your contract. You'll be terminated. And that's it. Terminate right there on the spot. Rest assured that you would have me on your side training your employees on how to deal with the CRA, where I tell them, you got the right to remain silent. You don't answer questions. Give them my phone number. So when interviewing employees about operational procedures, a signed form AUT-01 is not necessary as long as the auditor does not reveal any confidential information, which of course they do. The questions asked must only relate to the duties that employee performs for the business, which of course they will ask everything. The auditor should have informed the owner that the employee interviews are necessary before conducting the interviews, which is why you don't let them in your building in the first place, and you deny the CRA the right, or not the right, sorry, the privilege of entering your premises. You always must protect yourself. All right. Moving on to the next bit here. Paragraph 23111D of the Income Tax Act gives the auditor broad powers. What actually doesn't. It just makes broad suggestions about broad would-be powers if this was actually enforceable, which it's not. All right. Allowing them to require the owner or manager to attend at the place of business and require any person on the premises to give all reasonable assistance and to answer proper questions. Okay. But again, you have the right to remain silent. So that right overrides this entire stupid manual. That's that. All right. No, you don't answer questions. Then we've got chapter 10.1.2, interview questionnaire. If the interview questionnaire has sections for business history, books and records, bank authorizations, personal expenditures, and a tour of the premises, it is a good starting point to develop your own audit-specific interview. All right, so they're going to train you. The CRA is going to train the staff on how to lie and how to bully people. But if you kick them out of your building, or you don't let them in the first place, and you force them to talk to me, none of this is going to happen. So the generic questionnaire should be modified based on screener's package, other preliminary review data like CRA searches, internet searches, sector profile review, information obtained during initial contact, audit plan, auditor's knowledge of information to include in the final reports, and team leader input. The team leader is actually the team leader of the CRA audit, another criminal, Nazi, fascist loser. All right, so the auditor has to print out the questionnaire, and they usually slam it down in front of the client, say, fill this out. Now, here's the question I've got for all of you. If the CRA, or even the IRS in the United States, but we're dealing with Canada right now, if a CRA representative wants you to fill something out, ask questions. How much do I get paid to do this? What? No one's ever asked me that before. That's how they're going to react. But you are not an indentured servant. None of us have to work for the government for free. None of us have to work for free at all, period. So I'm going to ask the question. Before I answer any of your questions, what do you pay per answer? Because I'll take 10 grand per answer. And that's three answers in advance, like $30,000, and I'll take it now, please. I'll take that in US dollars, by the way. So we need everyone to get all of you to start to be very rough and very tumble with these people. If someone says, I need you to do this, That's not a lawful command. That's just they need you to do something so that their boss won't be angry with them. I don't care about what someone needs to do to keep their job. I really don't. If I'm paying you for something, you better do it. If you're demanding something from me, you're paying me for it. Otherwise, I'm going to charge you criminally with extortion, theft, fraud, criminal harassment, intimidation, all of it. Absolutely all of it. By the way, if you're on TikTok tonight, can we get you all double tapping your screen, please? Just keep tapping. It's free to do, and it really does help. All right, so section 10.1.3 is not that interesting. It's about their own templates. That's all that it is. But we want to do this. This is the Canada Revenue Agency's manual for auditors to understand their duty. This chapter 10 has 125 pages within it. So 10.1.5, tour of premises. The tour of the premises is generally conducted after the initial interview and helps to confirm visual existence of a business, determine the existence and use of assets, indicate or confirm revenue streams and likely expenses, and verify and reinforce statements about the business structure and the accounting cycle. But if you never answer their questions in the first place and you ban them from the property, this doesn't happen. They're not going to tour your premises. Let me ask you the question, really, and I want all of you to think this through. But you invest your money into a business. You dedicate the first year of your life, 20 hours a day to get this thing making money. You're finally making money. You finally got your life into some semblance of order. And now you've got some jerk that you don't know is going to walk around and demand that you show them, train them for free how to run your business, who your clients are, who your staff are, who your suppliers are. Are you kidding me? No, it's my business. I'm the one that built the business. You want to know how it all works? You're going to hire me as a consultant to train you on how it works. And you're going to pay a pretty damn big fee for that. Let me promise you. All right. So you don't have to cooperate with these idiots. So this tour of premises will never happen if you hire me. If a tour is not possible, document the reasons on Form T-2020. Memo for file, the audit plan, and Form T-20 audit report. These documents, okay, so blah, 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 blah. So if you're a loser criminal who works for the CRA and the client's hired me, I'm telling you now, you're not doing a tour. So you may as well go straight to your Form T-2020 and fill out KevinJJohnston banned us from the property. What do we do? And they really won't know. Conducting the tour. Ooh, look at this. Individuals who are knowledgeable about the operations of the business should accompany the auditor during the tour. Well, first off, if someone I don't know wants to walk around my place, you're damn right that I'm going to be there. I'm walking everywhere with them. But wait a minute. We don't have to cooperate with the CRA. Audits are bogus. We don't have to cooperate with those, so they won't even be there in the first place. I'm going to keep saying that until it gets into all of our heads. So the individuals may include the owners or this may include individuals other than the owners or the owners. Write down observations during the tour as soon as the tour is over. Observations include verifying items from the balance sheet and interview, but it is just as important for the auditor to identify potential gaps. For example, offices with large amounts of empty wall or shelf space. Had something been there, none of your business. None of your business. You know, maybe I'm a weirdo and I store my stuff in my basement at home. None of your business. Sizable amounts of empty floor space that does not hold machinery or inventory or appear to be actively used by the business. Again, none of your business. Maybe, thank you for the heart, maybe I run a business where I want my staff playing floor hockey. So maybe I need, let's say, 7,200 square feet of floor space for the internal company house league for ball hockey. None of your business. That's it. It's none of your business. It's our floor space. We paid for it. We're going to write that off whether you like it or not. Period. Business vehicles not at the business during the tour. It's none of your business where my business vehicles are. Who cares? What if they're doing deliveries? What if it's a really busy day? Do you think I'm going to phone all of my couriers and say, hey guys, we've got some Nazi coming in from the CRA. I need everyone to park the vehicles for the day. And I'm going to pay you to sit in these vehicles so some loser in a suit can see them there and say, oh yeah, cars. so that he can take a pen and write the word cars on a piece of paper. No, that's why we don't cooperate with audits. Why are we wasting our time? It's our business. It's our company. We're going to run it our way. So then it also says, including other locations in your tour, other locations that may be included in the tour, vacant property. Of course, that would be trespassing. That's a crime. Suppliers or customers. Like, they will try to talk to your customers and suppliers. Don't tell them who your customers are. Don't tell them who your suppliers are, because they'll go and screw your relationships up. This is what happens when losers get a little bit of authority. They like to screw with people's lives. So don't let them do that. Owner or a shareholder personal residences or properties to help assess lifestyle. Really? So imagine this. Imagine I'm a guy. Let's just say I've got a small business. Let's say the business makes $1 million a year. Let's say that $1 million has to cover the salaries of 20 staff and the whole operation. So let's just say that $1 million gets eaten up to the point where there's only $5,000 left in the business. And I choose not to draw a salary because there'd be no money left for a salary anyway. And let's just say I'm a really good lover, just for the sake of argument. And I'm living with a woman who's newly a widow, but whose husband was a multi-billionaire. So I'm now living in this woman's house who's invited me to live there. It's her house. It's not mine. It's her money. It's not mine. It's her car. It's not mine. But they're going to come and assess the house that I live in. And they're going to say, wow, look at this guy. He lives in this mansion. Never once considering the fact that everything that I just said could be the fact, could be the truth, could be the reality. They don't care. They're just going to look at the big house and say, nope, we got to audit this guy. He makes too much money. He's living a lavish lifestyle. And that's when, if you let them, they would come in and rip your business apart, costing you money and possibly costing you your entire business. Now what? So if they come to your residence, like literally if they come to your residence, you call 911 immediately and you lie and you say, I've got an armed man here who's here to kill me, and just scream into the phone. Those cops will be there in a second. Now, for the ladies out there, I hate this. I hate the Me Too movement. But if CRA representatives are coming to your house, ladies and gentlemen, or your business, and you're there alone, scream rape at the top of your lungs. Just keep screaming it. Call 911. Rapist, rapist, rapist. Just keep screaming it. Top of your lungs. The CRA are the only people on the planet that I want to see go to prison for that reason. The only ones. They deserve it. Do not let these people into your personal lives. It's a scummy thing to do, but what they do is worse by a lot. All right. Chapter 10.2.0, Books and Records. Subsection 230-1 of the ITA, the Income Tax Act, places an obligation on every person who is carrying on business or is required to pay or collect taxes or the amounts to keep records and books of account at the person's place of business or residence in Canada. Okay. Obligation, that's not a legal term that says you freaking must do it. So this is not a law that says you have to do this. This is merely a suggestion. It's a request on their part. Because when they say required, that's a request. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to suggest to all of you, if you want to keep your records outside of Canada, well, we'll store them here in Panama for you, because we're going to cover that shortly. Does the CRA record you when they arrive? I don't actually know. I don't know. But even if they do, as soon as you tell them you have to leave this property now, they have to go. That's where it ends. Right there. It ends right there. Okay. Yeah, private property, no entry on the front of your home. You can actually put signs on your property that says the Canada Revenue Agency and all employees of it are banned from this property, and give like this list of things you would do, like a $5,000 fine if they show up and so on. And if they get really belligerent, then unfortunately you may have to defend yourself. I always recommend going to violence last. But if they get belligerent and they come at you, yeah, I guess you'll have to defend yourself. And then you can sue the living crap out of the CRA and that particular agent after you phone the police that they assaulted you. But make sure that they lunge first. Don't you lunge first. If they lunge first in any way that seems aggressive, defend yourself. You're allowed to, especially if you're afraid of them. And with the act that they put on, a lot of people are absolutely terrified of them. Anyway, books and records, section 210.2.1. Register. Actually, that's not a very interesting one. You can keep books if you want when you're running a company or not. If you don't keep books, what would they, even if they audited you and there's no books, what are they going to audit you on? All right. They're just going to like, you got to get your books in order. Okay. Thank you. That's all right. Oh, Robbie says, I've been dealing with the CRA for 20 years. Everything he said, 25 years, everything that Kevin's saying is true. Thank you. Appreciate that. So if you had no records and you allowed the CRA to do the audit, they're going to say, well, there's no records, but there's stuff everywhere. And you'll say, yeah, but records or not. And if you think that they're going to try to get a court order for your records, well, then you can destroy your records before they get to them. What are they going to do if you destroy them? You say, well, look, I don't know. I can't find them. I'm sorry. Can't find them. There we go. So a definition of a record is a taxpayer's records, including paper and electronic records. So we know what that is. That's invoices. That would be quotations. That would be money in, money out, payroll, any extra taxes going on, rent, all that stuff. That's all your records. Quite frankly, none of that are the CRA's business. And you're not going, if you hire me, you're not going to ever have to tell them this stuff. All right. So I'm going to move down a little bit further here. Electronic records. During an audit, the taxpayer may raise questions about the nature and extent of electronic records to be maintained. The auditor should discuss the situation with the team leader. That's his boss at the CRA. A computer audit specialist, CAS, may have to be consulted for a technically complete answer to the taxpayer. Now, that does not mean they're going to bring some hacker in to look at your computer. Because if they say, can we see your computer? And you say no, conversation's over. Alrighty. Computer audit specialists. At the time of initial contact with the taxpayer, the auditor should determine if records are kept electronically, and if so, what type of software system is used. Do you know how they find that out? You tell them. Oh, look at my laptop here. It's a gaming laptop, man. It's the best, man. It's got 64 gig of RAM. I got 4 video, and I use Windows 11, man. Or you could say something on the lines of, if you touch this computer, you're going to be arrested right now. So that's the way that you do this, all right? For the auditor to request assistance from a computer audit specialist, they have to create an ECAS case action, which is integrous and complete the template request for CAS assistance available for whatever, man. For detailed instruction, never mind that. Generally, a CAS may be able to retrieve, process the records, or have them processed by CAS National Processing Lab and provide the results to the auditor before meeting with the taxpayer. The sooner the request for assistance is complete, the faster the results will be provided. So what they're saying here is, if you're stupid enough to give them permission to leave with your computer, they'll get their experts to go through your computer. Now, this is the Canadian government that we're talking about. So let me tell you what the CRA probably will do. They'll find, let's just say they found nothing wrong with your records on your computer. They're going to be angry. I bet $50 one of them puts child pornography on your computer and then calls the RCMP, because when they find nothing wrong with you, they get really angry about that. Like they're weirdos. So can I see your computer? No. Can I come on the premises? No. Can we come in? No. Would you like to answer some questions? No. Can we come to your house? No. Can we have a look at your car? No. No. The answer is always going to be no. We collectively, we will do the audit of your business or you personally for them and submit it to them with the appropriate signed affidavit. Okay. So we're just going to have a look here. Records prepared by external accountants. The CRA does not recognize solicitor-client privilege for accountants. I've been saying that all along. Okay? That means your accountant, unless they are a tax lawyer, or you've hired them under amicus curiae and clause 15 of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, which is what you do with me, then they will not recognize that privilege. You know, your accountant, if they had any balls, could say, I don't answer questions, get a court order. But they won't, because they're cowards. So Accountants are expected to produce any working papers, journal entries, and any other document relevant to the audit of the taxpayer. Notice how it says accountants are expected. It doesn't mean required. It doesn't mean must. It doesn't mean they have to. It's just that they expect the accountant to do so. Yeah. So with that being the case, your accountant is probably going to scrag on you. They're probably going to tell them everything, but I won't. It would be, as they say, a cold day in hell before I would in any way, shape, or form ever cooperate with the CRA and answer a single question. And I mean, not one. And they'll say, well, we don't recognize solicitor-client privilege because you're not a licensed lawyer. And just look at clause 15 of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. And that means that you must deal with me because they hired me to represent them. And amicus curiae is a very powerful piece of Canadian law. So you can actually have anyone you want represent you at any time. And that is what the average person does not know. So everyone, you hire me and you do have what they call solicitor-client privilege. I'm not telling them jack. Accountants are expected, okay, for, hold on. Language expectation for books and records. The Income Tax Act does not stipulate that books and records be maintained in English or French, only that they be maintained in a way to enable the determinations of taxes payable. You see right there? That's it. That's the only reason that an audit takes place, is because they want some taxes. You may not even owe them. And if you allow them in there and they do the full audit, they're going to find some way to tax you. They always do. So what's the rule? We do not cooperate. Chapter 10.2.2, legislative authority to inspect, audit, or examine books and records. All right, this is where it gets hilarious. In connection with an audit, subsection 2311 provides the legislative authorization for CRA auditors too. Now, let me explain what that term means. Legislative authorization simply means we can't give you power, but we're going to tell you that you can pretend that you have power. That's what that means. So CRA auditors they mistakenly believe that they can inspect, audit, or examine the books or records of a taxpayer, inspect, audit, or examine the books and records of another person that relates or may relate to the information that should be in the books and records of the taxpayer. That would be your suppliers and your clients and your staff. And I'm telling you, they don't. Examine the inventory of a taxpayer. Hell no, you're not touching that, because what if they decide that they want to steal our stuff, right? First, they'll know that we have it, and then they'll probably start pocketing it, because that's what the CRA does. Enter into a premise or place where the business is carried on, except a dwelling house, and see below. Well, here's the way that works. If you have a retail store that's open to the public, they can enter just like the public can. But when they say, oh, here's my business card and I'm with the CRA, get out right now. And they have to go. That's it. They have to leave. If you have an office, though, where you keep the front door locked, they would have to knock on the door. And I recommend that if you see some guy in a suit that you don't recognize knocking on the door, don't open the door. Yell through the glass. What do you want? Oh, I'm with the CRA. You have 30 seconds to get off this property or I'm calling the police. 29, 28. Just, that's it. You don't ever let them inside, especially because they can't come in. It's locked. The door is locked. They say that they can enter a premise or place where the inventory is kept. Think about the audacity of someone to just walk into a warehouse and say, oh, hi, I'm with the CRA. I'm going to count all your inventory. Again, the correct answer is get out. If you don't have a warrant, get out. Wow, it just keeps going. Look at this. Enter into a premise or place where anything is done in connection with any business or any books or records that are kept or should be kept by the taxpayer. So that is extremely broadly worded, poorly worded, I might add. And if they're going to word it that poorly, everyone, then that would mean that in their perfect world, they could enter your car, they could enter your truck, your motorhome, whatever it might be. And of course, they can't. Require the owner or manager of the property or business to give reasonable assistance to the auditor related to the administration or enforcement of the Income Tax Act. You do not have to help anybody enforce the law against you. You have the right to remain silent. So if the cops are going to arrest you, you don't talk. You talk to your lawyer. CRA comes by, you talk to your lawyer. Throw them out. No, we're not cooperating. Require the owner of the manager of the property or business to answer all proper questions related to the administration or enforcement of the ITA. You have the right to remain silent. Dude, get out of here. Require the owner or the manager to attend at the premises or place with the auditor for the purpose of giving reasonable assistance in answering questions. I don't answer questions. No one's paying me for my time to answer questions like that, so it ain't going to happen. Require any person on the premises or place to give reasonable assistance to the auditor related to the administration or enforcement of the ITA. Again, they want you to help them enforce this. Nope. Require any person on the premises or place to answer all proper questions asked by the auditor related to the administration or enforcement of the ITA. Again, nope. Nope. Ban them from the property. Call the cops if you have to. That's where it ends. When auditors send audit contact letters or subsequent requests for information or documents, they are using subsection 2311, which just says that you're required to answer questions, but you're actually not. Required is not a legal, lawful command. It's a request. Although subsection 23111 allows an auditor to request third parties not under audit to provide information or documents that relate or may relate to the taxpayer under audit, CRA policy advises the immediate use of subsection 23121 in certain instances for instructions to obtain information or documents from third parties not under audit. So there's some rules, but it essentially says you can ask questions and you can tell people that they're required to answer, and those people can tell you where to go. I mean, people are getting really good at on YouTube and TikTok telling cops no. Well, you tell the CRA no as well. Oh, I like this one. Refusal of a taxpayer to provide information or documents. Open, honest, and professional communication with the taxpayer is the best tool to avoid a refusal. That's not what they do. The auditors come and they lie. They get really loud, really rude, really belligerent, and they say, oh yeah, we're with the Canada Revenue Agency. You have to ask our questions. So no, that's not professional. That's lying. That's the commission of a crime. That's called intimidation. Section 423 of the Criminal Code, 5 years in prison. The auditor must explain, okay, see right there, it says must. He actually must. He does have to do this. The auditor must explain why the items are needed and provide assurances regarding confidentiality. Let me tell you something about confidentiality. I don't trust anybody in government at all, and that is my right, and I will act according to my lack of trust against the Canadian government because we've learned what the Canadian government's up to. They are completely unreliable and untrustworthy. So the answer is no. Check this out. The Taxpayer's Bill of Rights confirms the taxpayer's right to privacy and confidentiality. But the law actually says you have the right to remain handsome. Oh, sorry, I read the word handsome here. Silent. Thank you, Bindi, for saying that to me. You just saw me. That's what we call a Freudian slit. Right. So thank you, Bindi, for the compliment. The Taxpayer Bill of Rights confirms the right to privacy. The Taxpayer's Bill of Rights also confirms you don't have to cooperate. And the law says you can remain silent. So the auditor's out of luck if you hire me. If the auditor is met with a refusal to provide information, the first step is to determine if the information or documents could be obtained from a third party. So these sneaky pricks are going to go behind your back and try to get that information. And that is where you issue a warning to all of your staff and your spouse and your friends and whatnot, and your clients, if you need to, that they are not to cooperate because you have already put forward your appeal, which is what I will do. And when I put forward the appeal and the banning of this representative from talking to anyone, that's it. The audit's over. So at that point, it's defamation of character. And literally, you can sue the guy for defamation of character. All right. So for instructions, go to 10.6.2. And we're going to go to 10.6.2 in a second here. It is the CRA's expectation that taxpayers will be able to satisfactorily respond. So it's an expectation. If the CRA is expecting me to cooperate with them, they're going to be expecting for a very, very long time. All right. That's going to be a very long wait. It would take me 100 lifetimes to muster up enough energy to consider thinking about helping them in any way. So good luck, guys. All right. So it's the CRA's expectation that taxpayers will be able to satisfactorily respond to the majority of these requests by the initial request deadline. Where a taxpayer does not satisfactorily respond to the initial request by the deadline or request additional time, then a follow-up request may be issued with a revised deadline, which means so long as we keep saying, get lost, they have to change their audit schedule. They can't do anything. They just can't. A request from a taxpayer for additional days past the initial deadline should be granted for factors or events that are outside the taxpayer's control, such as illness, death, natural disaster, and may include a change in representative. Okay, so let's talk about delay tactics here. You can say, I was diagnosed with brain cancer. That's it. Keep it vague. Okay, so now you need more time. You ask for 6 months. Who diagnosed you? Ronald McDonald. Okay, there you are. Then when you all come back, you get ill again. You go to hospital and say, oh, I feel like killing myself. And then come out the next morning and say, no, I changed my mind. But that would be considered illness, mental illness. Then what you do is you fire me and you tell, as your representative, and then you tell them, that's right, you tell them, I just fired the representative. We need 120 days to hire a new one and then hire me back in month number 5. There you go. We just delayed them 2 years. Just like that. See, them's the rules. I didn't write them. These events or factors are not intended to be exhaustive, and professional judgment should be used when issuing revised timelines, to which, of course, we're going to tell them no. And at this particular point, if they're going to be hyper insistent, we are going to hire a private investigator to find out who this particular auditor is, and we're going to send cease and desist letters to their home. But at this particular point, because now they've pissed me off as your representative, it's going to be live. It's going to be live on the Kevin J. Johnston show, or it's going to be live on this show. It's going to be live. So I will have my representatives out there with the cameras running, walking up to the guy's house, with the selfie stick going, 2 or 3 cameramen, ringing the doorbell to serve the cease and desist letter and probably a lawsuit against them. And that's going to happen somewhere around 2 a.m, I'm sure. And the doorbell will be rung all night long until they answer the door and take the paperwork, at which point then my guys have to leave. So you CRA people out there, like, there's a new sheriff in town, man. I've had enough of you guys. And I know you don't like me, but I'm completely outside your jurisdiction. So good luck in harming me in any way. You've already done it. Good luck. But now that I'm in the position that I'm in, and I've chosen to do this full time, you're all in a heap of trouble. So if I were you, I do what I instruct you to do when I'm representing my clients. The justification for granting or disallowing any additional days to respond to a request must be documented in the audit file. So if the guy's going to say no, and he says because he doesn't have brain cancer, well, how does he know? And through the Freedom of Information Act, we can then request that record and see what he put in there. True story. You can also sue the guy and apply for a third-party arbitrator to get involved. That delays it even further. In addition to the follow-up request will include a warning that a compliance order may be sought under the virtue of Section 2317 of the Income Tax Act. There'll be no further additional delays provided. So that means they have to go to a judge now and say, he may have brain cancer, he may not. He fired his lawyer, then hired him again. He doesn't seem like he's all there. He tried to commit suicide. We don't know what to do. Like, we want you to force him to comply. Now, a judge might write an order for that, but you know what we're going to do when we get that judge's order? We're going to appeal it. Like, right away. We're going to appeal it. Because everything in Canada is appealable. And we're going to criminally charge this representative with malicious prosecution. Yeah, we're going to go right to the courthouse and file charges against that individual. And that being the case, we can get a restraining order against the individual so they can take their court order and shove it. When considering issuing a revised deadline to provide information, auditors will adhere to established standard timelines. Okay, that's for them, not us. So I want to go all the way down now to 10.6.4 or 6.1, sorry, 10.6.1. Introduction. All right, this is where we refuse as people to cooperate with them. 10.6.1, introduction. The instructions in this section are specific to obtaining information from third parties, not the taxpayer under audit. Okay, so this is the taxpayer now. You've hired me. We have banned the Canada Revenue Agency from your property. We are not going to cooperate with the audit. We've told them that we are going to run the audit for you and you will accept what we give you. So now what they're saying is, here's how you become a bunch of sneaky criminals. For audit steps, to obtain information or documents from the taxpayer, go to section 10.7.5. A third party is defined as a taxpayer that is not the taxpayer under audit. To ensure that the books and records of the taxpayer are adequate to determine taxes payable, to obtain information not available from the taxpayer, to determine the accuracy of some documents, and to verify an explanation provided by the taxpayer. But we're not going to explain anything. So they can't verify any of that. 10.6.2, auditors' authority to obtain information or documents from a third party. Auditors have the authority to examine the book. Hold on. They have the authority if you cooperate. That's it. Auditors have the authority to examine the books of account and records that are needed to determine the taxes payable under the ITA, as well as to obtain assistance from the taxpayer necessary to perform their work under the inspection powers of section 2311. This authority also permits an auditor to interview the taxpayer under audit. But we covered this like earlier in the show. We're not cooperating because they're not paying us for our time. We are not indentured servants. We do not work for the CRA. So their policies and their little rules here don't apply to us. Legislative authority. Subsection 2311(1) provides the authority for authorized persons to examine books and records. The legislation specifies that any authorized person is allowed, not must, allowed to examine at all reasonable times any of the following that may be relevant in determining the obligations and entitlements of the taxpayer. Documents, if we feel like handing them over, which we don't. The property described in an inventory, which of course we're going to ban them from. Any other information on this property, which we are not going to share. And we're going to tell our staff, you don't cooperate because you've hired me. I do all the talking. In addition, the wording in subsection 23111 to inspect, audit, or examine, in quotation marks, a taxpayer's books, records, and documents is broad enough to include asking the taxpayer for an oral interview, to which, of course, you know which four-letter word I'm going to give them when they say, we'd like to interview you, right? You just know what I'm going to say. The auditor may enter into any premises, may, does not mean must or actually is lawfully allowed to do so. May, if you invite him in. May enter the premises or place where books and records are or should be kept and require a person on the premises or place to give the auditor reasonable assistance and answer proper questions. Could you imagine the audacity of someone walking into your business, making you stand beside them while they open up your files and look through them? And you're supposed to stand there, not doing your job, not running your company, and answer this guy's questions? No, you've got the right to remain silent. The right to remain silent overrides all of this. All of it. 10.6.3, types of third parties. There are two categories of third parties, unnamed and named. An unnamed third party is an entity that the auditor believes, not is, believes has information or is non-compliant, but the auditor is unable to identify that entity. So that's what I'm saying. Like, We don't tell the CRA who our clients are, who our suppliers are, who our mechanics are, who we bank with. We don't tell them this stuff. It's none of their business who we're married to, who we're sleeping with, who we're hanging around. None of that stuff. So if we don't tell them who we work with outside the company, they don't know who to go to. All right. So an example may be during an audit, a large adjustment is found to a salary expense, and the representative is surprised and says that they handle all of their clients in the same manner. Quotes, all of their clients are likely specific taxpayers, but their identities are unknown, so they are unnamed. Right. You're not going to tell the CRA who your staff are. Period. Obtaining information specifically on this unnamed taxpayer or group requires the authorization of a judge. Court order. They have to get a court order. So if this guy asks, who works for you? Who works for you? Who? And I say, no. You're banned from the property. You can't come near us. Here's your trespass warning. We've served you court papers at your house and you're still bugging me? Yeah, you better have a court order. You'd better have it. But a court order is not a warrant. It's not a warrant. A court order would be something along the lines of, I've got 30 days to submit to this auditor what the auditor is looking for. I can appeal that court order in that 30 days. So the way the appeal would work is I can wait until the 27th day and enter my appeal. And then I get 60 days to perfect the appeal. So the auditor's not getting jack. He's not getting in. The appeal of that decision has to come up first. That'll be a year from now. Think about that. Named third parties are typically taxpayers whose identities were made apparent during the review of the books and records or interview of the taxpayer under audit, which is why I would tell any employer that I have, my name better not be on any records in there, because if the CRA comes by here and gets my name and they audit me based on you, I'm going to do a lot of damage to your company. So that is why whenever I had a job, I always was on contract. I would write invoices every Friday and say, here's your invoice for all the work I've done. Pay me. Cut me a check. I'm done. What happens if you don't follow a court order is they have to file a motion to have you held in contempt of court. And that motion will be heard within 2 or 3 months. And then what you do is you go in there, having moved all your, like you bought yourself time to move all your records and move all your money and so on. And then when you go to court and they present this to the judge saying that they want you to be held in contempt, and you show up without a lawyer and you ask this question, is this gentleman looking for prison time? And as soon as the guy says yes, oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor, I have to have a lawyer for this. You have to have a lawyer. If they're looking for jail time, you can't just go in there self-represented if you have no idea why you're being called in there in the first place. That just delayed everything a year. There we are. Alrighty. So named third parties typically can be grouped into 2 categories. Those of interest for lead generation and those who may have information which relates or may relate to the taxpayer under audit. So let's just say I phoned you a year ago and you've got me in there as a lead. And then you cooperate with the CRA when they're doing their audit and they see my name. And then they call me because of your audit. I'm going to be livid, man. Livid. So don't put yourself in the position of being sued by your customers and your suppliers for being stupid and cooperating with the Canada Revenue Agency. Third parties who may have information include spouses, common law partners, or other related, associated, or connected persons to the taxpayer under audit. Persons include persons, partnerships, and trusts. So, ladies and gentlemen, if your spouse answers one question to one police officer or one CRA representative about you, that's not your spouse. If my woman was ever to answer one question to a cop about me or the CRA, she's gone. Right there, the trust is broken. It's done. I can tell you this right now. I would never answer any questions to anyone about a loved one of mine. Not even at gunpoint. You're just going to have to pull the trigger. That's how it works. So everybody out there, try your very best not to destroy your relationships by cooperating with these people. As soon as you've hired me as your agent, that's it. It's all over. You would give me a list of everyone that this person is not allowed to speak to, and all of you go and get a restraining order against this guy. You're allowed to get a restraining order against the CRA. That's the best part of the law. So they will certainly go to chartered banks and trust companies and lending institutions if they know where you bank. If they know you pay property tax somewhere, they'll certainly go to that municipality. They'll go anywhere. They'll look for court records on you. They'll look for police records on you, whatever it might be. But you also have to remember this. That particular guy who works for the CRA has to justify all these actions. So if he's going to do all this, it's not like he's going to know what he's doing. They're not investigators. They would have to hire an investigator to do this. So if this guy hires a private eye, typically these guys are $1,500 a day. And this private investigator racks up a bill of $500,000, and it ends up that you owe $100,000. This agent, this auditor is going to be in hell. Like, he really is going to be in crap. 10.6.4. Methods of obtaining information or documents from named third parties. Obtaining information or documents through personal visits. The auditor. Third parties may be contacted through a personal visit, letter, or a telephone call. Oh, yeah, you don't want to be a CRA agent coming to see me in person. That is something that you just do not want to be, because I will immediately interpret that as an assault on me. If you're coming to question me on something like this, I'm going to perceive you as somebody who's fully armed and ready to kill me, and I will defend myself to the best of my ability, which isn't too bad. It's really not that bad. Another auditor from the same tax service office. View Integris to determine if another auditor from the same TSO is currently auditing the third party in question. If so, the auditor who needs the information or documents should ask the other auditor to obtain the document information. This is a valid use of the subsection. But if all of us out there continue to live by the adage of, I've got the right to remain silent, it doesn't matter that you're an auditor for the Canada Revenue Agency. You're essentially just a collection agent. You have no power. You have no authority. We're not cooperating. Get a warrant. Good luck getting that. Okay, so obtaining information or documents through a written request. In some cases, information or documents may be obtained from a third party by sending a written request. Obtaining information by mail is used if a visit to the third party is not possible. Okay, so what do you do with letters? Is if they're asking for a ton of information, we tell them that we are going to pass. Thank you for the offer, but we're formally declining your request for this. And you'll have to talk to our legal agent, and you give them my contact info. So you don't have to answer letters in any way other than to acknowledge you received it and request denied. When information or documents are required from a third party whose books and records are located in the geographical responsibility of a second TSO, approval should be obtained from the ADAs of both the first and second TSO before sending a letter. This approval does not apply to sales transaction information requested from eBay or PayPal. Notice how they didn't list Stripe or Square or Crypto.com or any of those guys. So it's right now only eBay and PayPal that cooperate with the CRA. So if you've got PayPal accounts, be careful. As soon as you know there's an auditor involved, move all that to Square.com or Stripe.com or Wise.com or Coho or any of them. Move it to any of those other services. All right. This should be good. 10.6.5. Again, for those who are joining us late, this is the Canada Revenue Agency handbook that all of its auditors get. This is them being trained to be better thieves. That's all this is. But nothing in this document here circumnavigates the real law or the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, just for the record. What if a private investigator contacts you by email to call them? You give the private investigator's information to me. I will call them and I'll ask them a ton of questions, but I'm not going to answer any of their questions at all, period, because we don't have to. A private investigator is just some schmuck with a license to behave like a schmuck. That's it. I ask this question of all my female clients. I'm going to ask all of you out there right now. If I made a phone call to all of you saying, hello, ma'am, my name is KevinJJohnston. I'm with the Canadian National Underwear Institute, and I'm going to need to know what bra size you are, what type of bra you're currently wearing, and what style of panties you're currently wearing. Would that be thongs, fullbacks, or granny? What would you say? You'd probably tell me to go straight to hell, or other colorful language. Your banking information is far more intimate than your underwear information. All of you need to understand that. So please just respect your money more than your underwear. Your underwear is not important. You can replace that for $2 here in Panama, but you can't replace the money that they steal from you. So procedures for them obtaining information on you. The following procedures are generally apply to obtain information or documents from third parties. However, each TSO must have its own procedures and some specific rules apply. Section 2311 gives an auditor broad inspection powers, but only if you cooperate, and is most often the first tool an auditor should use to seek information from the taxpayer or third party. Notable exceptions are financial institutions, accountants, notaries, eBay, or PayPal. Depending on the nature and volume of the information sought, a reasonable amount of time for a third party to respond may vary. 30 days is considered a normal benchmark. It is important to try and obtain the information as early in the audit as possible. In all cases, a letter must be sent to the taxpayer setting out the date and time of the appointment. Okay, so this happened in Calgary. Client of mine has this Chinese guy, Long Duck Ding Dong, Quing Quing Bo Bing, whatever his name was, has the temerity to state to my client, I'm coming to audit you on Monday, March, whatever it was, and you will have the following 42 items ready for me to inspect. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? So called him, got his fax number. I said, I've got some correspondence I would like to send. Oh, who are you? I said, you don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that I've got a legal document coming over to your place. Now, I would prefer to give it to you at work. I'm very polite. I would prefer to give it to you at work. But if you prefer, I can research you, find out where you live, and serve you there. It's your call. Okay, I give you my fax number. Okay, I give you fax number right now. Oh, okay. So he gives me the fax number, and we sent him in a denial, a declination that we will not be cooperating with your audit. Okay. Not only that, we banned him from the property, gave him a full-blown trespass notice, and we put a sign on the door and the back doors, the garage door, the gates outside, everything with his face on it, banning him and all CRA staff from the premises. I also told this guy that you're not to contact my client at home, place of worship, gymnasium, anywhere they might be. You talk to me. So he get angry with me. You can't do that. I embarrassed. It's embarrassing. You can't do that. Because in Chinese culture, there's something called face, right? So if he was to argue with me and say, I want to audit you, and I let him do it, he gains face. It's like pride. He won something. But if I was to say no in front of his whole family, he loses face, and they're all going to look at him saying, like, you have to redeem yourself. How dare, like, you're awful now. We lose respect. So with his face being on my client's door on a trespass notice, telling him he's banned, he loses a lot of face. So his ridiculous culture dictates that he must now try to find some way to regain that. Well, I wish him the best of luck, because I have more that I can do to not only remove face from this guy and his ridiculous culture, but I have the ability to cost this guy hundreds of thousands of dollars of his own personal money. And let's see if face is that important to him when we have him in discovery finding out what he owns to pay my client. All right, there we go. That's right, Sandys. I diminished his honor. And if you work for the CRA, you have no honor. So you can take your face and shove it where, nothing shines. Okay. Your brother owes income taxes and CRA places a lien on his house. Does the lien remain on until he's paid it? The lien remains on until he's paid it, or we file a motion in the court to get rid of it. We have to appeal their decision. That'll come up a year from now. File a motion in the court and say, Your Honor, we've appealed this. It hasn't come up yet. We need to have this lien removed because it's now not based on anything. Get a hold of me, Christy. That's what I do for a living. All right. Now, check this out. During the visit to the third party, this is in this case here, this is the Canada Revenue Agency going to your friends, your relatives, your suppliers, your clients, going to their place because you don't cooperate. During the visit to the third party, upon arrival at the third party's place of business, the auditor must provide the contact person with identification and a business card. Okay, that's fair. The auditor must state the reason for the visit is to obtain information or documents necessary to complete another audit. And at this particular point, you would hopefully be an adult and say, you need to leave. Now, I am not wasting any time talking to you. During the conversation with the third party, the name of the taxpayer under audit will likely have to be stated by the auditor. Now, all of a sudden, even though there's a policy here that the CRA guy is going to say, oh, we're auditing KevinJJohnston. That's defamation. Because if I said you're not, then you're not. It's defamation. You're absolutely right. I'm bringing a lawsuit to that guy and serving him at his house at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and making sure the whole world knows where he lives at that point, because I'll be pretty pissed. And if you're a government employee, don't piss me off because you know what's going to happen. This is a legitimate release of confidential information. There's no such thing as legitimate release of private information to a third party who is irrelevant to the person in question. That is not a law. That is a CRA policy. We do not work for the CRA. So yeah, defamation of character right there. Breach of privacy. That's another one. However, the auditor must not specifically state that the taxpayer is under audit. Well, how would they not reason that for themselves? The third party may draw its own conclusions. I see, plant the seed in their head. But the auditor will not breach the confidentiality provisions of Section 241. As soon as you mention that you're auditing me, that's it. My privacy has now been breached. So good luck, man. I'm coming for you. The auditor must tell the third party that its books and records are not under audit. And of course they're not, but the third party, before we even get there, should have said, thank you very much for your time. You're trespassing. Beat it. And I'm going to ask the males out there now, especially the men, start talking that way. Let's go back to the 70s. Beat it. Get scarce. Bolt. Scram. Now. Get out of here. And if you have to, you are allowed on your own property to put your face within a foot of them and tell them, you got to go now, leave now. You're allowed to do that because you are protecting your land. You've actually got the right. If they're not leaving, you have the right to just, not punch them, but to guide them out and off the property. You've got that right. I have asked a question of a lawyer of mine, and this is something I pondered. I thought about this. If a CRA auditor comes to your business and you tell them, you got to get off this property now. Let's just say, for example, they came to the back door and you told them you're going out the gate, like you're going out the back gate now, and their car is on your property. I'm wondering, and I don't have an answer yet, but I'll try to find it. If we were to close the gate, keeping their car there, could we charge them $500 a day to have the car stored on the property, and then let them know that if they don't pay that bill, that we're going to sell the vehicle and have that paid? I'm wondering about that. So I did ask my friend who's a lawyer. We'll get an answer for you at some point in the future, but I can promise you, if it was my property in Canada and the CRA guy shows up, he's not getting into his car. His car's staying where it is. He's leaving. Now, if he wants it off the property, what I will do is I'll ask him for his credit card information, and I'll hire a tow truck with his payment info. He can tow his car because the tow truck driver, he'll be allowed on, but the CRA guy will not. All right. And I will not be held accountable for any tires that may or may not get slashed on my property because it's not my responsibility. You come on my property, nothing is my fault. Nothing. I don't care what the insurance company says. I'm telling you, it ain't my fault. And you're going to have to put up with whatever happens to your car on my land. All righty. Concluding the visit. When concluding the visit, ensure that the third party understands that the records were not audited and thank them for their cooperation. Never let the CRA in your building. Okay, there you go. If you had a no trespass sign, I think you can hold their vehicles. I think you're right, Joseph. I think if the no trespass sign said that if they enter the property, the vehicles become our property, there could be some argument to be made for that. There could be. Telephone calls to third parties. The auditor may, not must, may telephone a third party to obtain information or documents, although a personal visit is preferred because that's intimidation under the criminal code. The auditor should follow the same procedures as noted above with respect to preparation of documents. Wow. Specific third party situations. Spouse or common law partner of an individual under audit. To provide the greatest degree of confidentiality, the individual under audit is requested in writing to provide the spouse or common law partner's information. Holy hell. Do you think for a second that anybody on this planet's got the right to ask me who I'm sleeping with? Do you honestly think, CRA, I know you're watching this, that I am obligated in any way, shape, or form to tell you who my children are, who my wife is, might be, who she was? That's the kind of a question. Actually, I'm just going to put a warning out right now. If any government official, I don't give a shit who you are, if any government official steps into my personal space and makes a demand of me to know who my wife, girlfriend, lover is, you might wake up 3 days from now. It will be the worst uppercut you've ever received in your life. That's going to be the answer to your question. And I'm warning you now, because as a man, it is my duty, not my job. It's my duty as a man to defend every facet of the people that I love. So if I am a married man with children and you're asking me anything about them, the best thing for you to do is run like hell, because my duty dictates that you must be knocked out cold. You must be on the ground. You must learn the lesson of a lifetime and make sure that everybody who works for the CRA sees just how much damage was done to you. I'll probably spend 6 months in prison for it, but it would be worth it, because I'm telling you, it won't just be the uppercut. There's going to be a lot more that comes with it. I hate the CRA, and I hate those who think that they've got the right to my personal information. You think because you've got a shirt and tie on and some business card that you have any rights whatsoever in relation to me? I'm telling you that you don't. I'm the one that's got rights to dictate my life and the terms of my business and the terms of my interactions with my family and my suppliers and my clients. Don't ever think that you have that right. It suggests here that you do. I'm telling you that you don't. And I'm not going to get into the details of what I would do after the guy was knocked out cold. I'm just going to say that it would make the front page of every newspaper in the country. He won't be dead, because I don't believe in killing my enemies. They can't suffer if they're dead. It'll make the newspapers, though, I promise you. You don't want to be that guy. That's all I'm saying. And ladies, it would be the same thing for you, because even though I've got a strict, stringent rule about not hitting women, when you are coming to me as someone who's pretending to have authority and you want to throw this in my face and make demands of me as to who my family members are, it's good night, Alice. I'll see you when you get out of the hospital 3 months from now. I'm not telling you people out there, you fine, lovely, beautiful people out there, to hit the CRA. I'm just telling you what I would do. That's it. I take full responsibility for what I say. So the CRA can take that as a warning. They can take it as an anecdote. They can take it any which way they want. It would be unwise for them to ask me that question. And I personally would have a lot more respect for men who would react the same way to anybody asking questions about their wives. We have a duty to our family, guys. Adhere to it. Getting back to this ridiculous document. Okay. This is one I hate. 1066, obtaining information or documents from financial institutions. Authorization to obtain banking information. What is a bank authorization? A bank authorization is a letter signed by the taxpayer or contributing member of the household authorizing a financial institution to release the information to the auditor. Now, how many of you willingly signed a contract with you or with your bank stating that, yeah, sure, you can give my information to whoever you want? Did any of you willingly do that? Was that informed consent if you signed a banking agreement? All right. If they don't have that, let's read on. A bank authorization is not a formal requirement to provide the information, nor is there a legal obligation to do so. Well, I disagree, but we're going to continue on here. Purpose for obtaining an authorization. The purpose of the bank authorization is to give the CRA a tool to ask the financial institution for missing banking information or to verify, confirm, and locate banking information such as account balances, loan accounts, RRSP balances, mortgages, credit card statements, in addition to the existence of safety deposit boxes. That's why you should never have one of those. Bank authorizations can be used to deal with chartered banks, trust companies, credit unions, for example, Caisse Desjardins, other lending institutions, and investment companies. That's why you got to keep your mouth shut. You're not going to talk to the CRA. By signing the bank authorization, the taxpayer contributing member of the household authorizes the financial institution to charge their account for the administration fees to provide the requested information. So if you sign this document, the bank is going to charge fees to the CRA, but you pay them. You just signed your own death warrant. It is not the CRA's policy to absorb the expense if the taxpayer contributing member of the household refuses to pay the administration fees. So the bank will just take them from you. Holy smoke. So imagine this. The CRA wants you, they'll go to your house and say, hey, sign this letter so we can see what's in your bank account. By the way, you're paying for this. Wow. You guys got to hire me, man. Each financial institution or branch needs its own authorization. For joint accounts, all account holders must sign. That's why joint accounts are actually good. And the more names you have on joint accounts, the better. Oh, by the way, you need to set up your accounts that everybody must be present to withdraw. That has to be in that or you're screwed. During the initial interview, when to use a bank authorization. For small and medium business audits, where IVI has not been mandated by business intelligence and where the auditor has not identified any risk, the request for a bank authorization and a customer profile are not mandatory. As well, the supporting IVI tests, including the bank deposit analysis, are not mandatory in this situation. Okay, that one doesn't really say an awful lot. If the taxpayer and the contributing members of the household have kept and provided all banking information, it is still mandatory to include a customer profile for the taxpayer and every contributing member of the household from each financial institution that holds any financial instrument of a taxpayer or contributing member of the household. At a minimum, this will provide negative confirmation. Oh my God, here's the example. A corporation has two bank accounts with Bank A. The sole shareholder has accounts only at Bank B, and the shareholder's spouse does their banking at Bank C. There are no contributing members in the household. A customer profile from Bank A should be obtained for the corporation. Customer profiles for both spouses should be obtained from Bank B and both spouses from Bank C. That's why you do not cooperate, because now they know where you bank, and now they're just going to keep at it until they get your money. Wow. Some financial institutions have indicated that a request for bank information can be processed more efficiently if the auditor first requests the taxpayer or contributing member of the household's bank statements and preliminary information, which is know your customer documentation. After reviewing this information, the auditor will request information relating to specific transactions. Now, I never fill out know your customer information. All right. Here's the way that this works. I am not doing any investigative work for anyone. If somebody contacts me for tax services or for legal assistance in some way, it is not my job to police them or to do any investigation work. I will not be doing any due diligence on anybody who's paying me to do a job. So I will never fill out a know your customer form. Not my job, because I'm not agreeing to those terms and conditions. If the bank wants that from me, they can pay me for my time, which they won't. So they're not getting it. The majority of larger financial institutions now have designated locations called third-party demands group, where all requirements are served and processed. Consequently, these financial institutions may no longer provide customer information, including the customer profile, at their local branches. In these situations, the auditors should serve the requirement to the designated branch as indicated at the collections and verifications branch. If no branch is designated, or if the auditor believes that not all information from a local branch was forthcoming in a previous requirement to a designated branch, serve the requirement on the branch of the account. What's being said here is that the banks are supposed to try to make it a little difficult for the auditor to get this information, but they cave in right away. So the auditor really has been given a false sense of power here, in that they actually should acquire a court order to get any of this. So the banks have just taken the right away from their own branches to cooperate with the CRA and just moved it to their head offices. That's why the branches say, well, it's not my fault. You got to blame head office. All right. Let's see here. Some branches of larger financial institutions in smaller communities and local institutions, such as credit unions, for example, KC Desjardins, may still provide directly at their branch information such as the customer profile and access to the branch manager's file, and sometimes other account information. If the taxpayer's branch of account agrees to provide such information, the auditor can use the bank authorization form as a tool to be presented directly at the branch. However, if the branch refuses to provide the information and offers to transfer the bank authorization form to the designated branch for processing, the auditor should use a requirement served to the designated branch and not give the bank authorization to the branch of the account. Essentially, this clause right here has just blown wide open everything that I have said about the term requirement to pay. So the Canada Revenue Agency has a secret code to the banks, requirement to pay, which they will send to one of the head offices of your bank. And that's when those banks just give your money to the CRA without a court order, which they legally have to have. Okay, just checking a couple things here. All right. Visiting the financial institution, delivery of a bank authorization. Visiting the financial institution to obtain financial information is limited to circumstances where the taxpayer's branch of account allows that such information can be provided directly to the auditor. All right. The initial contact. So they're supposed to contact the branch manager, who may refer you to someone else. Sometimes an assistant manager. Try to deal with the same person for all subsequent contacts. Choose a mutually convenient time for the visit. So look at all this time that an auditor is using and wasting our time. We're in the private sector, not public. So our time is not being paid for while they're doing all of this. And the bank is not getting paid for this either. And the CRA has already said that they will be charged for all of this, but they're not going to pay it. Wow, man. Something wrong with our country there. Alrighty. I'm going to move down to a couple other quick things here, because there was something. Safety deposit boxes. If the taxpayer has a safety deposit box, the sign-in card must always be included in the list of documents that the auditor needs to examine. Frequent access noted on the sign-in card may indicate unreported income. If you have a safety deposit box in a bank, get your head examined. Get your stuff out of that box. And if you need to, build a false concrete wall in your house and hide everything there in a fireproof bag. Your safety deposit box is not safe from the CRA. So you're paying for what exactly? You're paying to have someone give away your stuff. The meaning of frequent access will vary depending on the taxpayer's explanations, which you're not going to give because you're going to remain silent, and the nature of their business, which you're not going to tell them. If in the auditor's and team's judgment there's been frequent access, an immediate viewing of the contents of the safety deposit box should be arranged. And the bank will do this. Even though there won't be a court order, the bank will cooperate because they're cowards. Immediate viewing ensures that the individual does not remove information or documents that support unreported income. But that's where the CRA guy can say, you know what? There's a ring. We're going to put that over here. There's some cash. I'll put that here. They'll steal. They'll steal. The CRA will steal from you. The auditor and a team leader must attend a viewing of the contents of a safety deposit box together so they can steal together. They're going to steal. Information or documents in the safety deposit box may need to be scanned. So they're actually going to touch your personal property. They're going to put their greasy fingerprints, their dirty, filthy, god-awful soul on what's yours, which is supposed to be safe. That's a breach of trust. So I'd be suing the bank for that. I mean, I've got a very lovely ring that my grandmother gave to me. It's beautiful. It's not worth much, but it's beautiful and it means something to me. And if a CRA representative put his hands on it, just touched it, there's a lot of things that I would do at that particular point to make him regret that decision. I think a lot of you feel the same way that I do on this subject. I really do. This is our stuff. These are our personal effects. Why is it that some loser who works for some loser Nazi institution, they think that they could touch our stuff without consequences? That's what they think. Because the book here says that they should do this, but not that they legally can do this. And because the book says they should do this, they will. Okay. A will included in the contents of the safety deposit box should not be examined or read under any circumstances. They will. Who's going to stop them? Who's going to stop them? You're going to love this one, everybody. And this is why you cannot hire accountants. You have to hire me because I'm not a licensed accountant. That's the best part of it. I am being paid by you to be your representative. You have client lawyer privilege or client solicitor privilege. Even if they subpoena me to talk about you in court, first off, I'm probably not going to show up. But if I feel like doing so, I'm going to say, I've been retained by my client. Your Honor, I'd like to step down now. Thank you. 10.6.7, obtaining information or documents from accountants. An important audit step is to use the accountant's working papers to reconcile financial statements and adjusting entries to the tax file returns filed. Accountants' working papers, correcting or adjusting entries, and supporting vouchers for financial statements relate to a taxpayer's books and records and are necessary to complete the audit. The accountants may be asked for other information necessary to complete the audit, such as information in connection with an audit or review engagement and advice papers. You know what that means? Every email that you and your accountant send back and forth, they're going to want to see, and the accountant's going to give it to them because they're cowards. The accountant's not going to say, I'm busy. Get out of my office now. That's the correct response. You know, I bark at people. Like, I'm really adamant about barking at people. If I'm on the phone talking to a client, or worse, talking to my kids, and you're calling my name, I'll give you a couple of warnings. Like, I'll try my best to be polite. But the third time, you'll see my face change. And I'm going to become a monster. And I'll just hold the microphone back and I'm going to tell you every profane thing I need to do. And if I need to like take a run at you, I will. So don't think that you are important when I'm dealing with someone who's paying me to do a job for them. You know, this auditor is not important to me. Or I had a case, actually, a con artist flew to this country here to try to con us out of our money. And we caught her doing it. And we called the cops and the police are dealing with it now. And this individual was following me around because this individual wanted me to loan her some cash. And he kept saying, Kevin. And I just shut up. I'm on the phone with my accountant. You're going to be quiet right now. Well, if you don't start treating me better, I'm going to leave. No one's stopping you. I am not going to make anyone follow me anywhere. You're in a foreign country, in a foreign town. You're on my time. You do it my way. You've got to be a monster these days. And this particular individual didn't like it, but she followed me like a puppy dog because she knew I was right. She knew I was just going to leave her there. And I will leave anyone there. And all of you out there have got to start reacting the same way that I do to people who are irritating and stopping you from your goals. And in business, your goal is to make money and protect your trade secrets. So be rude, be crass if you need to, be loud, change the facial expression and be ready to cause problems. This is what we need to do. It's our stuff. It's not their stuff. This business that I have, this is my business. Nobody is going to learn my secrets unless they pay me for the company. And I'm going to value it very, very, very expensively. Then you can sit with me and I'll spend days with you, because if it's the figure that I want, I don't mind hanging around for a week to train you in what I know. So all of you, treat your companies this way. Defend them as if they are your children, because this is what you've built, not them. So your accountants will cooperate. I'm telling you right now. And let's just say, for argument's sake, the CRA decides to sue you. They can subpoena your accountant to testify against you, and your accountant probably will. Your accountant is not going to have the balls to say, I'm not feeling very good. I'm not comfortable with this. I have only known this gentleman for one day. We've had 2 conversations. I don't know anything about him. I'd like to be excused. They won't do that. They'll cave in. Oh, yeah, I did his taxes for him, and he asked me 17 times how to save money on taxes. And I told him I don't want to do this. They'll throw you under the bus. So throw your accountant under the bus. If your accountant doesn't say to you, hey, I've looked at your taxes very quickly here, and I can get you down to less than $5,000 for tax. If he's not saying something like that, then get rid of him. I'm reading emails from accountants all the time that are going to my clients, and they're saying things like, well, yeah, you got to pay more taxes. Well, you're the wrong choice for me, don't you think? That's somebody who would probably call the CRA to get you audited, because they're cowards. They want to protect their own livelihood. They're not doing anything other than taking your money and giving you nothing in return. And Kent, I know you know how that feels. I wanted to point out something else here, because instead of me griping and moaning now, there is one specific thing in this document that we read, and I was floored. But my mind opened up to the ridiculousness of Canada and the ridiculousness of the Canada Revenue Agency. So this is going to be an interesting opportunity if anybody wants to hear what I've got to say now. The CRA actually has a clause in this. It's like an instruction manual for their staff. And it says that if a company in Canada that you're auditing has their records outside of Canada, because some companies are smart and they move their stuff to the United States or Mexico or here in Panama or Grenada or wherever it might be. So you could actually say something like, you know, my records are in, pick one randomly, throw a dart at a globe. Oh, Nicaragua. And the CRA is going to say to you, well, we'd like to go to Nicaragua and have a look at your books. You can tell them, enjoy yourself, go by. Well, where is it being held in Nicaragua? Well, I'm not answering any questions without my lawyer present. The CRA will also tell you, let's just say you told the truth and said, oh, yes, it's in a warehouse on 19th Street, downtown San Salvador, in El Salvador. What if you told them where it is? If they decide they want to fly there to look at your books, first they need your permission, and then they need your authorization to have you pay for them to go. That's actually in this stupid book. So congratulations, you're off the hook. If you store your records in the USA or any other country, or even on a native reserve in Canada, which has been designated properly, then you just tell them the records are not in Canada. And they'll ask you, where are they? I don't answer questions. Or lie. Medellin in Colombia. Rio de Janeiro, where all the big butts are. You can tell them whatever you want. And they'll say, well, we'd like you to flip the bill for us to fly down there and look at your records. Well, I'm going to decline that because I'm not obligated to pay anyone's way. And I'm not paying anyone's way. And why would any of you? I'm sure that some people out there will fall for this nonsense, but I'm encouraging all of you to understand that you do not have to cooperate with the Canada Revenue Agency in any way whatsoever. You just have to answer their stupid letters in a fashion that buys you as much time as possible. So you'll always find that when the CRA wants something from you, they will state that we want you to pay this bill. Our records show that you owe $50,000. You either must pay it or respond to this letter within 14 days. So we respond to the letter. And in that letter, I will write for you. I'm going to tell them that we do not owe taxes. But if you say that we do, we are demanding evidence of that. And you are to provide that evidence before you make any further contact. Then we send off more letters, like we send them threats. Then the next day, I will phone that particular officer and give them a tough time. I'll grill them. I'll start asking questions. You guys have heard me talking to people. Well, what was that woman's name? Oh, hold on. It was Dick Shitta. Yeah. That's her name. Literally, that's her name. Yeah, it's an Indian woman named Dick Shitta Madri. Oh, I can't remember her last name. But I questioned her for 25 minutes and she just kept answering all my questions. So that's exactly what I'm going to do is just grill them. Why don't you find people watching this now? Grill them. I would recommend highly that you don't talk to the CRA, but start asking questions. What's your name? How tall are you? What's your waist size? What's your chest size? Do you work out? Oh, you do. What gym do you go to? I'd like to come meet you in person. I wouldn't mind doing a couple sets with you. What do you bench press? How far can you jog before you got to take a break? And just keep asking them questions. You have a dog? Oh, I love dogs. What's your dog's name? Oh, what kind of dog is it? Really? Oh, well, is the dog trained? Can the dog do flips? Do you have a cat? Oh, really? What's the cat's name? Just keep asking them questions. Now, thank you, Scorpio, for asking the question here of, do you have advice on buying land in Panama? First off, yeah, get it now while it's hot, because the government here has now authorized the rest of the projects out there that are currently being built to expand further. They're building new airports all over this country. This country, Panama, look at how tiny it is compared to Canada. I think Panama might be the distance from, let's say, Niagara Falls to Quebec City. It's really not that big. But it's going to have more airports than Canada this year. I can tell you that right now. It's got the Panama Canal. It's got that big airport, PTY, which is more modern than Toronto. It's got a better subway system than any Canadian city does. It's got better busing than any Canadian city does. It's got a new 4-lane highway that's being built all the way out to Costa Rican's border. There's going to be a monorail that stretches 24 kilometers west of the city, and that's already been okayed to expand further. The university, it's Florida State University, has a massive campus by the first lock on the canal, and there's a new subway line going to the university. And the university has not one single solitary pride flag on it, not a one. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So urban sprawl will eventually happen here. Yes, it will. I would buy land as quickly as you possibly can here in Panama. Knowing what we know about the Canada Revenue Agency and the Canadian banks, that fiasco with the truckers' convoy, where the truckers were absolutely within their rights, when Trudeau shut down their bank accounts to terrify every other Canadian out there, that's when foreign investors realize Canada is a stupid place to invest. They pulled their money. So when millionaires pull their money, you should do what millionaires do. They're millionaires for a reason, because they know what's up. Get your money here to Panama. I can help you open up your bank account. It's 950 Canadian bucks. That's it to get a bank account open down here. And they'll do it within a week. Well, I think it's only 4 or 5 days. And they'll do it remote. You have to do a Zoom call with the bank manager. That's passport, second piece of ID, a letter from your bank saying that you exist, and one of your tax returns, regardless of how good or bad the tax year was for you. That's all you need. And I will walk into the bank for you, present all the information. They will contact you. I'll sit with the manager, say, hey, John, Steve, Mike, Susan, whoever, good to meet you. And this lady here is going to have your bank account open in a couple of hours. Now, they're not fast here. So where it takes half an hour to open an account in Canada, it takes about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours here. But so be it. We want here, I've been talking to a couple of land developers. We want to build warehousing here in Panama. We want to build warehousing for Canadians to ship all of their records here so that all of your records are outside of the jurisdiction of the Canadian government. That's what we're looking for. We're also going to have not necessarily cloud storage here, because cloud's kind of crazy, but direct intranet access here. Okay, so that would be a private server where you can upload your records to that server here in Panama, that if for whatever the reason you made a phone call to us or you texted to a certain number, a certain password, that the entire server would get frozen. Right. So the CRA can't get in. And if they try to get in, then we would go to the Panamanian government here and say, there's a Canadian government agency trying to hack our servers here in Panama. It'd be an international incident. They would go straight to the Canadian consulate and say, what's going on? All right. What's going on? Because I've already met the mayors of 3 cities in this country, and I've explained just how communist Canada really is. All right. There we go. And they're not happy with it. So they're expecting a huge influx of Canadians coming soon. And it's going to happen soon. So if any of you are interested in investing in this program, having physical storage for files where you can have them all scanned in and they'll be held here in Panama. If you want to invest in this business, I'm willing to bet that we could have 10,000 Canadians within 1 year transferring all of their stuff down here. It's actually quite easy to get that stuff onto a small boat in Vancouver and just brought to the south end of the canal, and we'll store it here in Panama City or just north of it, maybe Panama Pacifico or otherwise. And it's not like we're going to tell the Canadian government where our warehouse is. We will open a Panamanian corporation down here specifically and only as a holding company for that building. And if the CRA or any judge in Canada says, Kevin, you have to, no, I don't, because you have no jurisdiction here in Panama. That's what we're after, the one. So let's take advantage of the fact that the Panamanian government wants to turn Panama into a G20 country. And it's going to get there, man. The amount of money down here is absolutely unbelievable. The amount of money in Canada is null and void. It's gone. It's been given to all the foreign countries around the world that don't deserve it, and we got nothing in return for it. How could we possibly, as a nation, go into debt $1.48 trillion and not have a single solitary new highway, airport, or train track built? Not one. It's possible when all that money is being printed at the leisure and behest of our government to be given away to all their friends around the world. That's what happened in Canada. When the banks lose their charter next year on June 30th, you're going to find that Canadians are in a great deal of dire straits, everyone. It's not a good scene. Get a hold of me for any and all tax needs, everybody. That's the best thing that all of us can do here. I'm never going to cooperate with the CRA, and I'm never going to do what a judge tells me to do in Canada. I am not in Canada. The odds of me going back to Canada anytime soon are about zero. I am not interested in that place anymore. It is a hellhole. It's a painful place to be emotionally and mentally and absolutely fiscally. You can't make money in a society where your own government has decided to go to war with we the people, which it's done. And now the CRA is taking absolutely everything away from us, and we cannot let them do it. My name is KevinJJohnston. This is the Real Estate and Money Show, probably also going to be called the Tax Show as well, which is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll always be able to see the show live on TikTok here and, of course, on freedomreport.ca. And don't forget, the Kevin J. Johnston Show, the political show, is absolutely every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, also here on TikTok and right here on freedomreport.ca. If you want your tax problems solved, get a hold of me right here at KevinJJohnston.com and book your consultation. We will see you soon. Have a great night. evening, everybody. KevinJJohnston here. This is the Real Estate and Money Show, which is every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Episode 34, Exit Tax and Snitch Lines. We need to talk about what's going on with the Canada Revenue Agency because we know that some of what the Canada Revenue Agency is doing to everybody in Canada is also now being done to Americans due to the IRS. And these are just not good things. I need to make an announcement, however, tonight. I'm sure some of you have heard the names Robert Menard and what's the other guy? A Warrior Calls, Christopher James. Well, these two gentlemen profess to be experts in the free man on the land movement. Now, in principle, I would have to say that I kind of agree with it. I don't like the idea of being subject to laws that I never agreed to be governed by. And I certainly don't want to be governed by the left-wing nuts that run the courts and run the government in Canada. However, if I stand like this and I say something like, I'm not going to pay tax because tax is illegal to charge. Well, maybe it is. But do you think that professing that to nobody is going to win that case? You haven't even presented a case at this particular point. The reason I bring this up is I do a lot of work with veterans and I do a lot of work with the elderly, people that just can't afford to get their taxes done. However, when people take the advice from Christopher James and Robert Menard, especially to do with taxes and law, what happens? They lose all of the time. I just had a conversation with a gentleman this evening. I'm not going to give you his name. And yes, I had to record it because I had a feeling it was going to get out of hand, and it did. But the individual had contacted me telling me that he says taxes are illegal and that no human being in Canada has to do a tax return. Well, I did tell him that a tax return is not going to get you into prison if you don't do one, but it's in your best interest just to do one after you speak to a professional like me, because that way, when the government, the losers who work for the Canadian government, have their silly little pieces of paper, they close your file and they leave you alone. You know, sometimes we all just have to kind of suck it up a little bit. Like, don't be so pride-filled in matters in which you have absolutely no control and you have no army to fight. Sometimes you just got to do it. I despise the Canada Revenue Agency in absolutely every way, but the Canada Revenue Agency makes it very easy to defeat them because it doesn't matter what I've got a problem with, there's a form for that. And if I fill it out and submit it and then make a phone call to say, I submitted your form, well, guess what happens? They say, oh, well, now the onus is on us to do whatever you're telling us to do in that form. It's that simple. If you want to get the CRA off your back, then you come to me and I'll fill out an objection to your taxes, which will get you an appeal date anywhere between 6 months and a year and a half down the road. And then we're going to demand disclosure. They're not going to give it to us, and we're going to win based on no disclosure. We're playing in their sandbox. We are, unless you're going to go to the CRA office fully armed with an army of 1,000 men fully armed and take them down, and then obviously put up with getting shot at by the cops who invariably are going to show up and so on. Unless you're going to do that, which you're not, there is no way for you to make a profession that taxes are illegal and I'm not going to do them. The individual in question ended up getting assessed for $60,000 in tax debt, and they are now taking 1/3 of his pension every single month, and he's not going to be able to survive in doing so. Here's the problem. He hires me and then tells me that because what we found, because he wouldn't tell me the truth, the numbers that we found matched up to what the CRA said that he owed. So we had to tell him, we need to take a different approach to this. And unfortunately, what the individual said is that because our numbers match the CRA's exactly, that we are his enemy as well. And then he wanted to go ahead and shout into the phone for about almost 10 minutes about the fact that taxes are completely illegal. And he doesn't even have to tell me what his tax numbers are. Well, if you're hiring me to do your taxes for you, you do kind of have to share that with me. You're under no obligation to tell me anything. You can hire me and then say, I don't want to work with you anymore. That's okay. But if you want me to actually do your taxes and come up with different numbers than what the CRA has, then you got to tell me what your numbers are. And if you want to stand there and proudly profess that the CRA has no power over you and that you're a free man on the land and you drive a car without a driver's license and you just move into abandoned houses and you write little letters off to the city and so on, you're going to do prison time. They're going to lock you up for it. I agree that the driver's license is complete nonsense. But if I have one and I get pulled over, the conversation with the cop that I really don't want to have ends really quickly. And I can carry on. If I don't have one and I want to start reading out all the tripe that the free man on the land movement wants to throw at the police, which they do, I'm going to get arrested. I'm going to have to make bail. I'm going to have a court date at some point. And that ticket, which would have been just a ticket that I could have fought in court as a free man, a true free man, I have to now fight not only the traffic ticket, but the criminal charge that goes along with it, which of course I still disagree with, but why put ourselves through it? So when you hire me, Kevin J. Johnston, to do your taxes for you, well, cooperate with me. I'm not your enemy. I'm your friend. I'm the one who's helping you. So I have to address them right now. To Christopher James and to Robert Menard of the Free Man on the Land movement and A Warrior Calls, or whatever you call your movements, you are destroying lives with the information that you're giving to people. You're absolutely ruining people's lives. The worst example that I can give is that a mentally ill man came to Christopher James and listened to all the nonsense about the fact that you just have to send a letter off to the banks saying that mortgages are illegal and I'm not going to pay them. And that's exactly what he did. And what did the bank do? They foreclosed on the property. And what did this guy do? Well, he, I guess, was embarrassed and he decided to abandon his wife and 4 children. And I had to negotiate with the bank to allow them to stay an extra 60 days so that they could get everything sold off that they had, everything packed up, and move from the east of Ontario all the way to the west, like an 8-hour distance that they had to go because the husband listened to Christopher James and all that free man garbage. If you are going to tell the bank that it's illegal for them to charge interest on a loan that you applied for, they're going to take your house. People who have slight mental deficiencies tend to gravitate towards Robert Menard and towards Christopher James. And you all want to believe in your fantasies of fantasies that there is some type of magical wand you can wave and never pay tax again. It's not how it works. And there's no magical wand you can wave and get a free house. And there's no magical fairy dust you can sprinkle and get rid of a mortgage in a day because you say so. That is just not real. That is not how it works at all. If you want to state that you disagree fundamentally with the CRA, then you're on your own. You're on your own if you're not going to cooperate with me. When you hire me, you do have to cooperate with me, or I can't help you. You're going to have as much luck telling the planet that you find gravity offensive and that gravity has no right to pull you towards the center of the earth. And then you're going to test that by jumping off of a building. And should you survive the fall, who are you going to blame? The earth? The force of gravity? Come on, everyone. I need you to stay away from the free man on the land movement. I can absolutely obliterate your tax bill. And I mean obliterate it. But I have to use the law to do it. I have to work within the confines of what would be considered fraud law. Why? Because if I'm doing overtly fraudulent things and a nationwide police investigation opens up on me, then they're going to contact Interpol and I can't go to 13 different countries in the Caribbean Union. So I work within the confines of the law. We will find every write-off that you are legally allowed to have. We are going to find every expense that you're legally allowed to claim. And we're going to eliminate every single earning that we are legally allowed to do. And believe me, there are so many laws in your favor in Canada for taxes that whatever it is that I do is going to work the first time that we do it. I need you all to stay away from the free man on the land movement. There's so many of my clients have come to me. It's too late in some cases. I can't save their houses, but at least I can save them their tax dollars. But don't go to war with the CRA or the government by stating that I am a free man, I am a sovereign citizen, and your laws don't apply, and I'm not going to cooperate. They're going to turn right around and just take your stuff. It's illegal what they do, but they're still going to do it. So you are correct, IT74. There is no way to fix Canada currently. And the reason I do the income tax show, the money and tax show that I do now, is that I want you to understand that I have been following Canadian politics full time for 24 years. I've been studying tax law for 40 years. I have been a big mouth for the last 8 years. In Canada, I am the one who has discovered so many rotten things the Canadian government's done that they've actually sent the police out to beat the living hell out of me, which they've done. And I'm still talking, and I'm still smiling. I'm still doing it because I despise the current tax system, and I hate the way they bully people, but I decided to learn how to beat them. And that's what I do. I beat them. So something for all of you now to pay attention to in Canada, and that is the Canada Revenue Agency. If you have a farm, whether it's a large or small farm anywhere in the country, the Canada Revenue Agency is now, by mandate from Justin Trudeau and his puppet masters, to freeze the bank accounts of as many farmers in Canada as possible. So what they're doing currently is they are assessing farmers' taxes at incredibly low rates, not even high rates, but low rates. There are farmers who have had their bank accounts shut down, completely frozen, for less than $1,000 because the CRA is assessing a tax debt and not communicating properly with the farmer. This is going on all over the country. It's not just the province of Ontario. It's absolutely all over the country. The other thing that's going on in Canada currently, and I want all of you to pay close attention to this, is that farmers all over Canada are now being offered up to double the value of their farm. And in order for that to happen in Canada, the farmer has to slaughter all of their livestock, spread it around the fields, and then incinerate the fields along with the livestock. That is a fact. They are doing this in Canada currently to artificially increase the price of food. I'm sure you've seen it. I am sure that you've seen that right now 4 chicken breasts in Toronto are almost $50, depending on which store you go to. I'm sure you've seen all of this. I know for a fact that in the province of Alberta, you've seen $10 bags of Doritos. I mean, you shouldn't be eating that stuff, but you've seen it. And it's being done deliberately to move wealth away from the middle class and give it to those who don't deserve it. So in Canada, if you're a homeowner, you've got options. Here is a big option for a lot of you. And that's why I wanted to talk to you today, especially on this matter. No, Sariana, I said a package of 4 is $50 in Toronto. I've seen people send me photographs all the time. I'm buying 5 1/4 pound chickens here in Panama City for $4. That's what I'm doing. And it is remarkable that a guy my weight, who works out quite a bit, is spending less than $25 a week on groceries. It's incredible. So why create a food shortage, Charlie? Is because it's easy when people begin to panic and start selling off their properties cheap to buy up that land cheap. It's called a land grab. It is a transfer of wealth away from the middle class into 2 different groups. One is going to be the illegal immigrants coming into the country, and the other one's going to be the very, very wealthy, the ones who are doing all this nonsense. Right now, for example, in Illinois, foreigners, especially Venezuelans who are coming into the United States illegally, are getting between $3,000 and $5,000 US per month, plus free dental, and anywhere between $5,000 and $15,000 in food stamps. That's happening in Illinois right now. So the destruction of farms in Canada is happening. The moving of wealth in Canada is happening. And now these illegals in the United States are getting free money, just like they are in Canada. Now, you'll also notice what happened in the last little bit here. There's a lot of Indians, Sikhs, and Hindus that are now being deported from Canada. Why? Because Canada, and this is where this middle class war is really being shown to the world. The Canadian government's not even hiding it anymore. Students are coming into Canada. They're having all of their money taken from them in the bogus universities. University of Toronto, a joke. The former Ryerson, an absolute disgrace. Even Sheridan College, where I went, and I taught there too, is brutal. There is no education here. The international students come into Canada, which is a Ponzi scheme, not even a country anymore, spending all their money on this ridiculous education and being sent back. Why? Because they no longer have any resources. Canada has been run as an economic zone for the last decade, not a country. So Canada is not relying on investment to make money for the country. It's relying on bringing international students and international investors in, stripping them of everything they got, and then kicking them out. So if you're in India and you're planning on coming to Canada, I highly recommend you don't, because the Canadian government's going to take your money and kick you out with nothing to show for it. And here's the other part too. They're kicking Indian students out of Canada back to India. They don't even have money for plane tickets, and the Canadian government's not even flipping the bill for those plane tickets. So with all these problems and all the illegal immigration taking place in Canada, and the fact that the middle, just like the United Kingdom, that's true too, just like the United Kingdom, just like the Democrat-run states in the US, there is an absolute war on the middle class. You cannot save Canada. It's done. The Canadian dream is over. What you need to do now, Canada, especially Canadians, is give up on the notion that the rules of the country are good for you. They're not. Give up on the notion that you can join forces with the protesters and save the nation. You can't. It is now time for Canadians to have individual civil liberty and leave. There's no two ways about it. You have to go. Now, the countries I'm looking at for permanent residency for anyone who's Canadian would be Argentina, Colombia, and Panama. They have the highest value for your money, and they are incredibly safe countries to be in now. Absolutely incredibly safe countries to be in. I know, I live downtown Panama City. I live in what some Panamanians call the slum, but it's pretty good. It's got the cheapest groceries in the country. It has awesome people. There's dancing on the streets. There are parties on the streets here. Every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, you just join a party. Someone will cook for you. Women will dance with you. It's a good time. On top of that, we have 35-cent subway rides, 25-cent bus rides. I take $3 Uber rides all over the city. I didn't bother buying a car when I got down. What's the point? I live in one incredibly walkable city. Everything that I need is within 2 kilometers of my front door. And 2 kilometers, for those of you out there who don't know, is a 16-minute walk. If you keep a good pace, that's all that it is. Coming full circle on what I'm saying. With the Canada Revenue Agency trying to shut down farms, and with farms being purchased and torched for the purposes of artificially inflating food supply, it's also artificially inflating all of your properties as well. So if you do want to leave Canada, if you want to get out, and you can't find someone to buy your house from you, if your house is worth about $1.8 million today in 2024, probably back in 1980, it was worth about 160. That is how the artificial pricing has happened in Canada. You're not going to find a buyer for that. Let's be honest here. So what you can do is contact me, and we can get you up to 80% of the value of the house in cold hard cash. It's called a home equity loan. And you can grab that home equity loan and buy property in another country. You could buy 3 or 4 properties here in Panama and rent them out under Airbnb. I can tell you something about Panama. This new government down here, they are expanding the country like you wouldn't believe. I mean, it's going to be a G20 country in 10 years. It's going to be I'm going to repeat that, a G20 country in 10 years. The banks here are completely clean and safe. Move your money here to Panama. It is safe. Don't liquidate property. If you can avoid liquidating, great. Let's say we get you an 80% line of credit against your house. We can buy a property or several for you here in Panama. With the money that you're making on the Panamanian properties, that's going to, of course, be in US dollars. You can use the Airbnb funds to pay off the mortgage back in Canada if you choose to do so. I had a client who it was almost $1.8 million. It was very, very close to it. We got him 80% of the value of his home. And he just said, I'm walking away. That's it. He's walking away. He decided to move with family in Grenada, took his money with him. And that ended up being the better part of just about 1.2 million Canadian, which is about 820 US roughly. And he is doing very well. He's very happy. He is investing in the crypto market and in the properties market. And he's decided not to go back to Canada. So that house, to which he's making no payments on, will just go up for grabs. And that's his choice. I'm not saying that you should just abandon a property, but he decided he didn't want to pay the bill on that. He decided that what he got for his house was enough for him to retire and be happy. That's not even a recommendation that I made. I just helped him do it. But that is another option that you have. There are a couple of clients of mine down here in Panama that if you wanted to purchase a property fast, you could actually run your Visa card. Just zip your Visa, Amex, or MasterCard and buy a property. Buy a condo. And I mean it, in just that day. What I would do, because I'm here in Panama City, is I would be sitting down with the lawyer. I would be on the Zoom call with you, and the lawyer would be filling everything out. I would be acting as your agent. Your lawyer is acting as your lawyer. And between the two of us, we would have the deed done. You send the credit card payment, and congratulations, you own a condo. It's what they refer to as the concrete bank account. So when you're buying a property anywhere in the world, the value of the property, unless you get swindled, is going to still be there. And of course, higher in the future. Everything's going up all around the world. So when you buy property, it's very difficult to lose unless you do end up buying something where you didn't do your due diligence. It is possible to buy swampland that can't be drained. It is possible to accidentally buy land that had former gas tanks underneath it. You know, that is possible. This has happened in Canada a number of times. But if you do your due diligence, then it's going to be done properly for you. So why would we not want to be moving our money out of Canada? Also, let's go back a couple of years. The truckers' convoy in Ottawa, which I salute them for, which did get your rights back, Canada, by the way, and every other country around the world followed suit to get their rights back, by the way. The truckers' convoy had the unfortunate side effect of upsetting a very weak man. Justin Trudeau is not even a man. He's a very weak individual, realized he was wrong and that everyone was going to be pointing it out, and that the protests in Ottawa, the capital city of Canada, were going to get bigger. So he ordered the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to start making a whole bunch of arrests and filing false charges all over the country, which they did. And also demanded that the banks shut down people's bank accounts, which the banks could not wait to do. Then the Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, who has a very severe cocaine problem, look at the way she twitches all the time. That's when she announces that without a court order and without cause and for no reason whatsoever, when we tell the bank to shut down your account, they will. And they're doing it now. So in Canada, if you object, which of course I do heavily, to the radical LGBT movements out there, your banks find out about this by looking at your social media profiles, which they do for some reason. They shut you down. It's called debanking. They are shutting down Canadians' bank accounts who disagree immensely with the LGBTQ out there. Debanking is not a good scene at all. There is some hope. I can help Canadians get into bank accounts in the United States, here in Panama, and also into what you call provincially chartered banks out in Alberta. We can do that. Provincially chartered banks are definitely better now than federally chartered banks in Canada. They're safer, but they're still in Canada. So at some particular point, I'm sure that Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party is going to make a play for your bank account. If you move your money to Panama, it's safe. If you move your money into the United States and you shh about it, you don't tell anyone you've done it, your money is safe. Prime example, I can help you do this. If you open up a numbered corporation or even a named LLC corporation in the United States. The two states that I recommend the most are Wyoming and Delaware because they both have frontier law. Then what we do is get you an application done for an EIN and an ITIN number. They call it the ITIN. So we get the ITIN and the EIN number. Now, according to the IRS, you can do business in the United States. And as soon as you have those two numbers, you can get a bank account in the USA. Now, right, I see the comment here, the banks in the USA are not to be trusted. But as a Canadian citizen, it's still safer to make sure the vast majority of your money is outside of Canada. It's better to move it around. Where should you put it? Some in the USA with a good bank, and some here in Panama where the banks are fantastic. Some in property if you can do it. If you know that you've got a great place to hide your gold and silver, then you want to buy some gold and some silver, but you want to make sure that it's 99.9% pure, and you don't want to tell anybody you have it. You just keep your mouth closed on that because you know what's going to happen, right? The IRS and the CRA both, and actually the ATO in Australia too, they will actually quiz you. They will say, do you have any gold and silver? And everybody thinks that they're obligated to answer these questions. You're not. No, you don't have gold and silver. Keep it shut. Shh, quiet. And then part of your portfolio should also have Bitcoin within it. And I will be lecturing on Bitcoin starting in October. We have a Bitcoin program we're starting up here, especially here in Panama, because Panama is a little bit behind on Bitcoin, but they're starting to take it now. We can buy houses here in Panama with Bitcoin and Ethereum and XRP. We can do all three. I would prefer Bitcoin, of course, but we can get that done for you here. Canadian banks are not respected anywhere in the world now. I've just had an unbelievable number of meetings with the banks here in Panama City. And the best part about being in Panama City is there are 52 banks collectively within a square kilometer of each other. Just you could walk to all of them within 2 days and actually go and like walk inside and talk to them. Canadian banks are not respected anywhere in Latin America or South America because the Canadian SWIFT code is typically only good enough to get money into the United States. They won't let you buy crypto and they won't let you transfer anymore into international bank accounts you have elsewhere. If you have a bank that will do that, then you are very lucky. Typically, it'll get done if you've had a relationship with that particular branch for a while, but that's not even the case anymore because the banks no longer want managers to have good relationships with people. So managers are being moved all over the country now. You'll notice that bank managers, they're not there anymore. They're for a very short time and they move on. Why? Canadian banks are filling up their banks with non-English speaking, in many cases, illegal immigrants so that we can't understand them, they can't understand us, and that they are going to continue to be robots and do what the bank says and not in any way give the customer any leeway at all. And you have to have leeway in banking or you cannot bank. So, Canada, it is time to move your money out of Canada. Oh, and Robert, if your money's in British Columbia, that's the worst place it can be. The government's crazy there. The provincial government, they are insane. And the people that run the banks out there are crazier than the government. British Columbia in Canada is equally as bad as Seattle and Portland in the United States. The whole province is just wackadoo right now within the government and within the banking system. Dangerous place to hold anything. Everyone I know who has assets in British Columbia are selling them and leaving the country. It's just not a good idea. So a couple quick questions here. What about Switzerland? Well, Switzerland is great from the standpoint of you would always have to have a Swiss court order in Switzerland to be able to have someone look at your bank account. But let's say you did get accused of an international crime. They're not going to stick their necks out for you. Of course, we, the little people, we're not committing crimes. We're just looking for a place to put our money. But it's Europe. It's not as easy to do banking out in Switzerland as it would be here in Panama. The other thing to factor in also, the reason I love Panama so much, and of course, Colombia and Argentina, is the time difference. I'm in the same time zones as North America. Yeah, I know that Canada's got 6 time zones. Wow. But it doesn't matter where I am. in Latin America or South America, I will be in one of those time zones. So it's not like I have to do my banking at, let's say, 5 p.m. to catch the guy in Toronto at 9 a.m. I don't have to play those silly games with time zones. I don't like doing that, by the way. And the other thing also is Philippines and Thailand and places like that. Yeah, they're pretty cool. I just don't want to be 12 hours ahead. I don't want to be doing my banking at 9 p.m. to match up with the guy at 9 a.m. I don't want to do that. I want to be in the North American time zone for now anyway, because all of my clients are in Canada and the United States. How has the banking changed since Noriega? There is no Noriega influence in Panama at all. He's a distant and bad memory. Panamanians don't even like talking about the guy. Right? They just don't. So don't worry about that. The banking system in Panama is just like Europe. Better. If I had 200 grand, what would I do with it in Canadian? Well, I mean, Hammer, that's not enough to retire pretty much anywhere except for Colombia that I could really think of. If you have a way to make money, then if you brought $200,000 Canadian to Panama, you'd be able to find a cheap place to rent for $500-600 a month. And like I told you about my food bill, maybe tops 125 a month. And that's when I get a little bit nibbly and buy potato chips, which I shouldn't do. The Lays are kind of pricey here because they're imported. The local chips here are 50 cents. And some of them are actually not bad. But getting back to the point is, if you've got an income and you're bringing 200K US with you to Panama, you'll be fine. You'll have a very comfortable time for 5 years, but you've got to be able to replenish that somehow. Alrighty. Just checking out your questions here, everybody. What about the Barbados, Randy? Well, the Barbados, they have a new president, and I'm not on the fence with this person. I'm actually a little worried about her. I forget her name, but she came right out. She's a typical big mouth, all right? She's a Caribbean black woman who thinks that being loud is going to command more respect. And I'm not a fan of that particular type of behavior. When a world leader comes out and screams and yells at the top of their lungs, that's what children do. So she behaves like that a lot. And she did say that she'll be shutting down all crypto scams in her country. So if you pull a crypto scam in the Barbados, you'll do a lot of jail time. But at the same time, she is also shutting down the crypto trade in her country. So I wouldn't go to Barbados based on that. She's not the best for the country currently. And it's expensive. If you have a yacht, you know, the yacht fees, like just the docking fees are 30 grand US a year. And you've got to move your yacht out of the Barbados during hurricane season. Why? Because your insurance company is not going to cover your insurance or your yacht during that time. So, you know where you got to bring your yacht? To Panama. Why? There's no hurricanes in Panama. And I am looking for investors now to build a marina. I've got a sweet piece of land now in the north part of the country. I want to build a marina. I would like to have 200 spots for yachts to be here in Panama during hurricane season. We could probably make about $8,000 off of each one for that season easily. So who's in? Who wants to be rich? You want to be rich? Come see me here in Panama. Let's make some money. This country is unbelievable. If you're in business, how many corporate numbers do you think you should have? All right, Kent, it's a great question. If you're a property holder, house, condominium, whatever it might be, a numbered corporation, you want to have as the owner of the property, you are going to be the director and or the shareholder. Or you could have multiple shareholders, children, wives, whomever. Girlfriends, I don't recommend. But if you have collector cars, and let's say it's something good, maybe a 72 Barracuda that's been appraised at 60 grand, you want to put that into a numbered corporation too. You want the corporation to hold anything of intrinsic value. If you have gold and silver, just shut up about it. Like, I wouldn't put that into a corporation. I would just shut up about it. Hide it well. If you're in business, one corporation does your business. You can have two corporations to do business because one corporation can always bill the other one, and you can always transfer money back and forth so that both corporations lose at the end of the year. But always, always, always do not own your personal property. Do not own your home. Don't own but control them. Just don't own them. But I have a corporation in Ontario. I've got another corporation in Ontario and a corporation in British Columbia, because each one serves a different purpose and works with a different type of clientele. How about Bali? I've heard a lot of good things about Bali, but at the same time, Bali is unfortunately subject to a lot of the Islamic attacks that are going on in that region of the world. I haven't been. I've not stepped foot inside of it, and I have no contacts that are in Bali right now to be able to do a live broadcast. So I have to reserve judgment until I go or until I have a solid contact that can guide me. How do you move money from Canada if they aren't slow? Okay, well, they are allowed. You can move money out of Canada. Here's an easy one. Open up an American corporate bank account, go to your bank in Canada, have them convert your money to American currency, get a bank draft, which is also called a cashier's check, written to you in US funds, fly, keep your mouth shut about having a check in your bag, and deposit it. There you go. It's that easy. I got asked, and appropriately so, about exit tax. All right. We got to talk about exit tax. I'm just going to address some of your questions here, and then I'm going to move on to exit tax. Kamala Harris will destroy the United States. The Democrats have already done it. Yeah, I know that Trump's ahead in the polls. Trump's more popular than he's ever been. The Democrats are less popular than they've ever been, but here's hoping that they can't pull off another scam, because that was a stolen election, no matter what anyone says. Hey, Ninja Scott, how you doing, brother? How is the war in Israel going to end? That is one that I'm going to reserve for my show, my political show next week. I'd rather not talk about war on the Real Estate Money Show, but thanks, Perry, and good to see you. Thanks for being here. All right, exit tax. The Canadian government has been spreading rumors to the media. They're not rumors. It's just instructions. What they're doing is telling the Canadian media to lie to the Canadian people that there is a big exit tax now. There isn't. And there are big capital gains taxes that you have to pay. You don't. The problem is not the taxes. The problem is the accountants and the tax lawyers out there won't tell you the truth evening, everybody. KevinJJohnston here. This is the Real Estate and Money Show every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on freedomreport.ca. Tonight, we're going to be talking about killing corporate debt. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about tonight. And we're going to be talking to a combination of our Canadian audience and, of course, our American audience. I get a lot of Americans saying, hey, dude, like, can you do some America stuff too? No problem. Here we are talking about getting rid of debt in both Canada and the United States. All right, so I want to first off cover, why is it important to have a corporation, especially in our modern world today? All right, many of you probably have heard the term person in Black's Law Dictionary. This is England, this is Canada, this is the United States. Person doesn't mean human being. It doesn't mean you and me. What it means is a numbered entity designed or born specifically to pay tax at some point in the future. So if we all remember, before the women's suffrage movement, women were not designated as persons in the law. Now, the feminist movement, unfortunately, has bastardized that term. What they'll tell you is that means that women were not dedicated human beings or people. That's not it. The term person means corporation. Literally, it means corporation. So how do you create a corporation? Well, when a mommy and daddy love each other very much and do things, you know that you can give birth to one. That's what the 9-digit social insurance number is in Canada, and also what the social security number is in the United States. You are a person there to pay tax to the system. But if you register a corporation, you're also purchasing a person, a corporation. And that corporation in Canada has a 9-digit number, just like the social insurance number. It's referred to as a business number. In the United States, I don't know what the actual numbering system is called, but it's a new person that's created for the purposes of collecting tax and then remitting it to the government. So for the ladies out there who are wondering why they're struggling so much, well, it's because you're considered persons under the law. I think women should actually want to not be persons under the law anymore, and that way you ladies will never have to pay tax again. You kind of got hosed on that. I'm just going to go right out and say it. Since we are talking about money here, I know that a lot of single mothers are out there on TikTok especially complaining about the fact that they can't afford their tax bills, they can't afford rent and so on. It's because you're persons under the law and you're paying tax. In most cases, you're losing minimum 18% of your earnings, up to about 48% of your earnings. And if you're trying to raise a couple of kids on your own, you know how difficult that is. If you were not considered persons under law, you would not pay any of that income tax and keep every single penny that you want to keep. But that's where the corporation comes in, everybody. So if you want to stick around for the next 52 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about keeping all of your money and all of your earnings and everything out of your own personal name and putting it into a corporation, which is still considered a person under the law, and why it's so important to do so. In Canada, and I'm pretty sure the Americans have the same thing, there is something called the sole proprietorship. You decide that you want to do some business on your own, maybe a part-time baking business, maybe a full-time manufacturing business, maybe t-shirt painting or stenciling, maybe wall painting, whatever it might be. A lot of people will shy away from the price of getting a corporation done, depending on who you talk to. Could be as low as $1,200, could be as high as $2,500, but a lot of people don't want to pay that initial amount of money. And also in Canada, it used to be that if you had a business phone line, instead of paying $40-something for a personal phone line, you'd have to pay almost double the price to have a business phone line. And Bell's theory was, well, there's more benefit to you having a business phone than a personal phone. No, not necessarily true if you only make a couple of calls a day. So a lot of people were starting to move their businesses back into their homes in Canada and just getting personal lines and using them as business phone numbers. And then, of course, Bell caught on to that. Bell Canada caught on to that and would not let you have a Yellow Pages ad unless you converted that phone number to a business line, paid them $350 to do it, and then paid a monthly fee on your phone bill to be in the Yellow Pages. Remember those books that thick? The ones that cops used to beat you with because they don't leave bruises? Those. Well, Everyone can be on a cell phone now. You can get a business cell phone plan here in Panama, for example, for $28 US a month, unlimited talk, text, and data. In Canada, depending on the carrier, you can do the same thing for about $60 a month. Your business line can be a cell phone that you can port to any company. Cool. And yellow pages don't really exist anymore, except for their crappy website. Great. If you're really, really, really good at social media, you don't need to be in the phone book. Awesome. Good for you. But the proprietorship is, in Canada especially, it's just you declaring income, making income and declaring income under your own social insurance number. If you're foolish enough to get what's called the goods and services tax number, which is the federal 5% tax in Canada, any tax you collect, you're personally on the hook for in case you lose it or you spend it, which many people do. So it becomes incredibly difficult to move your money that you've collected in the way of GST away from your own personal name. The government wants their cuts, so they're going to give you a very difficult time. I would say probably easily 30% of my client base that comes to me with personal income tax debt are coming to me as a sole proprietor. And you can't do that. You cannot have a sole proprietorship. Unfortunately, for the vast majority of people that come to me with that issue, is bankruptcy tends to be the only solution. And bankruptcy is great, but if you're going to go bankrupt, try your best not to. There's other tricks that we can pull. Not making deals. We don't make deals. There's other tricks to pull where you don't actually pay the money. But bankruptcy, you want to go hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt before you consider a bankruptcy. You could even get your friends to pull debt on your own name before you go bankrupt. I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of tricks to pull there. But the proprietorship, recently, I can't really discuss it yet because I still have a legal opinion being presented to me shortly on it. But recently, we've discovered a couple of ways to start moving personal debt into corporations and then refiling corporations to the CRA. I will have more information on that one soon. I didn't come here to talk about moving personal debt, but I did come here to tell you about the importance of having a corporation to keep debt away from you. Now, let's say, for example, you do decide you want to run a business and you don't want to go the route of the sole proprietorship, which please God, don't ever do. You register a corporation, and it's going to be a matter of which state and or province you feel is going to be the best one to do so. In Canada, there are only two places I recommend you open a corporation. Number one is the province of Ontario, which houses Toronto, Ottawa, Hamilton, and Windsor, 4 really big cities. Why? Because that province is a mess. Governmentally speaking, it's a complete and total mess. They are never going to fix anything in there. The court system is completely screwed up. The CRA offices, the Canada Revenue Agency offices in that province are also a complete mess. They have a whole ton of diversity hires who don't speak English, so it's quite easy to defeat them. But there's no real fiscal advantage to it. Aside from being able to open and close corporations at your leisure in Ontario, there are no real provincially chartered banks that you can deal with. Whereas if we move over to the province of Alberta in Canada, it's kind of the wild, wild west in Alberta. And even though the population is only 4.5 million people there, there's still going to be another million showing up shortly, which means there'll be just enough disarray in the province of Alberta to register corporations there and really run them any particular way that you want. There are also provincially chartered banks in Alberta, and I happen to deal with a very good one named Bow Valley Financial. Now, if anybody wants to open up a corporation and have your money completely protected from the federal government, then we have to put you into an account in Bow Valley. Yes, this is something I've been working very hard on with Bow Valley. And now what we'll do is we're going to get you a numbered corporation opened up in the province of Alberta and open up a corporate account for you there. And if you owe money to the CRA, guess what? They can't take it from you. It's amazing when you have a provincially chartered bank in Canada and you're not counting on the charter from the federal government. You don't have to do a damn thing that any of the federal agencies within the country tell you to do. So if anybody out there wants to now protect their money and not move it here to Panama, but leave it in Canada, you got to get a hold of me right here at KevinJJohnston.com. Could I get someone to put my website address, please, down below here in TikTok, and same thing on Kick. Appreciate that. Get a hold of me, and we're going to get your money moved into the province of Alberta if you do decide to keep it in Canada. This is the only place so far that I trust. I've gone through a lot of conversations with a lot of provincially chartered banks. And one of the biggest issues that we've got with all of these institutions is customer service sucks. It's brutal. Customer service is non-existent in most Canadian institutions. Canada's always had this problem. Even Justin Trudeau's father, when he was prime minister back in the 60s and 70s, said it himself. Canadians don't know anything about customer service. It's a very difficult place to get done what you need to do. So when we are wanting to hide money or protect your money, please always register a corporation in Canada. Come to me for it. I'll explain the whole ins and outs. Now, why would we do this? Well, the corporation is now a brand new entity that the Canada Revenue Agency or any of the tax offices do not know about. They don't know about it because you haven't told them yet. The Canada Revenue Agency is not the IRS. They're actually very stupid. They don't have any policing powers at all. They have no authority over your life whatsoever. They have no capacity to do anything to you at all, aside from put liens on your house, which I can get rid of in about 90 days or less, and tell the bank to give your money to them, which federally chartered banks will do, but Bow Valley will not do in Alberta. And the banks actually are not legally obligated to do so. They just choose to do so. So if the banks give your money to the Canada Revenue Agency, sue the bank and file criminal charges against the bank manager for doing so. I'm telling you, it absolutely works, right? But the corporation, if you don't tell the Canada Revenue Agency that you have a corporation, if you simply keep your mouth absolutely closed about the fact that you've registered one and what you do for a living, if you don't file tax returns, they don't know that your corporation exists. They truly don't. Now, this is where I come in. This is where you absolutely need to get a hold of me so that I can direct you in the correctest possible way to run your brand new corporation in Canada so that you never pay taxes again in your life. And you can use your corporate bank account to pay all of your personal bills. Why is that? Because when you hire me, I'm the guy that studied tax law for 40 years in Canada. And I can tell you this, that if they decide to audit you, you just call me and I get rid of the audit. I will call the auditor officer up and I'll just let them know, hi, my name is KevinJJohnston. I represent my client and we are going to respectfully decline your audit. We will do the audit for you, but I'm going to give you 30 days to give us a list of what you want us to look for, and we will make sure that we present that when we submit our audit to you. And then we issue a no trespassing notice to them, a sign that they get faxed and mailed, a sign that goes on your front door, banning them from your property, banning them from talking to any member of your staff, banning them from your church, your school, your kids' school, your everything. All right? Everything. Everywhere you go, your gymnasium. Doesn't matter. The hockey arena where your kids play. You can ban people from anywhere you want. And if they show up, call 911. Auditors have absolutely no authority in Canada so long as you tell them we're not cooperating. And that is why you should never talk to the CRA on your own. You can hire a tax lawyer for $25,000, or you can hire me for $500, not $500,000. $500. You can bring me on as your legal representative, and I stay on as your representative until the auditor backs down completely. And that's exactly what we want to do. And then we go ahead and redo your taxes our way, not their way, and submit them. And if they have a problem with that, in Canada, the absolute worst that they can do, in Canada is assess you. Now, I don't know about personal taxes in the United States. The only thing that I have studied in the United States is corporate tax law, not personal. So if you are in the United States and you're watching this show, please talk to a professional there. But in Canada, and Greg, just get a hold of me on my personal website, please, which is my name, KevinJJohnston.me. Hit the contact page, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I possibly can, typically 24 hours. With the auditors, they will pull some sneaky stuff, but their handbook, there actually is an auditor's handbook, believe it or not. Now, chapter 10 is my favorite chapter in that book, in where it tells the auditors, if you go to audit somebody and the owner doesn't cooperate, then go and threaten the spouse. It actually says that in the book. Go threaten the spouse. If the spouse says no, threaten the kids. If the kids say no, go threaten the staff. If the staff say no, go threaten the suppliers or the customers. If they all say no, then you consider the situation hostile, and you have to then forward it to a team leader. I mean, I've had people, some of my clients, it's actually quite funny, where they've just lost their minds, and it's just this long strings of profanity screaming at the top of their lungs at auditors who showed up at their places of business. And the auditors are afraid because they're all cowards. They're not tough. They are cowards. And they'll get in their car and they'll drive away and they'll pull around the corner and they'll make a phone call to their team leader saying, the person yelled at us and I'm afraid and he's hostile. So you can get rid of auditors that way, but the legal ramifications could be that they call the police on you and say that you threaten them. So if you're ever talking to the CRA, if they ever show up at your door, which is extremely rare, you do the same thing you do with a cop. Take out your phone and film everything they say. Now, you're absolutely allowed to point your finger at them. Don't put it in their face. Point your finger and like, get your phone here and get the finger in front so your phone picks up your finger, scolding them like this. You can be childish and scold them. You can call them names. You can tell them their shoelaces untied. You can, whatever you want to say. But you still must tell them there will be no audit. Get off my property now. You have to be that forceful. And then please do get a hold of me, because I'm going to send out all of the legal documentation that they need to understand that they have been banned from the property and communicating with you and your company. That's how we deal with the CRA. And if it's a corporation, it's very easy to do. It's incredibly easy to do. Now, I'll go a bit further here with your corporations. If the corporation owes a vast amount of taxes, what you can do is contact me. Oh, inheritance tax, Rocket? Good question. Ask that more towards the end of the show. Ask me that in about 30 minutes, okay? And we'll take questions and answers at the end here. When they contact you, when you've got your corporation and you owe taxes, for example, once your tax bill gets to be a bit too high, what you can do is give me a call. And then we're going to utilize your corporate keys and we're going to remove you as the director of the corporation. Because the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency, and the Americans and the IRS as well, they'll try to state that the director is responsible for any all debts that come after the closure of the company. But they have to prove that. They can assess it, but an assessment is merely a guess. And when they guess, we issue a notice of objection immediately, and we demand an appeal date in the court, in tax court. Okay, that's what we do. But we still want to get your name off of the corporation later on as the director so that we can absolutely take away any and all of your liability on that corporation. And then when you have what we'll say massive amounts of debts that you simply cannot afford to pay ever, this is where you really got to pay attention to what I'm about to say here. Please, under no circumstances, declare corporate bankruptcy in Canada. Do not do it. In the United States, completely different animal. You can get away with it all in the United States. It takes about 3 years to go through it all. But in Canada, if you're going to declare corporate bankruptcy, the odds of being fully discharged from all of your debt is just about zero, right? Most of it, but not all. If you're going to go bankrupt with a corporation in Canada, unfortunately, you have to hire a lawyer. Them's the rules of the courts. I hate the courts in Canada, but they have these ridiculous rules, and that's exactly what you're going to have to do. right off the hop, every bankruptcy lawyer I've ever spoken to charges $25,000 right off the bat. Then magically, that $25,000 will become 40. And then magically, it'll become 50. And the lawyer never breaks down how they are burning through your money. They take this huge retainer from you. And then what they'll do is supposedly they will contact your clients, let them know you're going bankrupt and have all your receivables come in that are outstanding. And they will contact your creditors. Now, this is where it gets really sick. My theory is this: if you're hiring a lawyer, that lawyer is supposed to put your mind at rest, telling you, I got this. Don't worry about it. You're not going to pay any more money than what you're paying me now. That's it. That's what a lawyer should say, and then actually be able to do it. Well, just talked to a client of mine 5 days ago, and this lawyer that he went to get a corporate bankruptcy done by made my client get his tools assessed. My client had to pay $7,000 to have $21,000 worth of tools assessed at $21,000. And then the lawyer says, okay, well, you better cut me a check for 11 grand right now. Because when you go bankrupt in Canada, you're allowed to hold back $10,000 worth of tools of your trade. You know, for me, it would be microphones, phones, laptop, camera, lights, haircuts, whatever it might be. You're allowed to keep $10,000 worth of gear to continue making a living. And everything else over that, you've got to pay. Like, you're going bankrupt because you don't have any money, but you got to pay a lawyer $25,000. You got to pay an appraiser between $7,000 and $20,000. Then you got to pay any value that you have over $10,000 in tools. So to go bankrupt in Canada with a corporation, you're looking at $70,000. And you still won't have all of your debts erased. Why in the hell would you do this? So, coming now to the crux of this episode today, here is what I do. If your corporation is struggling financially, now this is both Canada and the United States. I have been working very hard on this concept. I have been studying this and reading case law on this. I have blown a lot of time. I got a lot of gray hairs going through all the legal nonsense I had to be able to find out if this could be done. So I'm going to go back a little bit now and explain my theory. Bindi, as for sole proprietors, ask your questions towards the end of the show, please. Going back now, I remember a friend of mine, he foolishly racked up his wife's credit card to about 40 grand in debt. But the credit card company realized that they weren't going to pay the card, so they just wrote the debt off. So this debt ended up with interest and all that being 50 grand, $50,000. And in year number 6, coming into year 7, at the end of year 6, beginning of year 7, credit card companies that have written off their debt, it's gone. It goes away. So what the credit card companies will do is they will sell this debt that they were unable to collect for between 1 and 10 cents on the dollar. So there are third-party debt purchasing agencies that will buy a $50,000 debt for $500 and then sue the person whose credit card debt that was and try to win $50,000 off them. All right. Now, the only time that they sue anybody is when the person who held that credit card owns a house. If you own property, that's when they sue you. If you don't own property, they won't try to collect on it because they know that they can't. So I got into negotiations with this company that brought a lawyer with them, and they had sued my friend in small claims. And I had explained to the judge, who wasn't really all that smart, I must admit, that they've sued for this debt. They claim that the debt is now 8 years old. You only have 2 years to sue for something. And they've admitted in their own defense, or their own statement of claim here, that they purchased this debt. So the only thing that I could suggest here is that we either pay them their original amount and walk away from this, or we go through a trial. So we ended up going to trial. And guess what happened? They didn't show up because they knew that the law was not on their side. But he and his lovely wife had to take a day off work. They had to pay my time and pay for the defense and just the stress and the headache of all that debt being brought back. This is exactly what will happen with the Canada Revenue Agency and the IRS if you bankrupt your corporation. As the director, they will do their very best to make sure the bankruptcy does not go through. So in Canada, why would you spend $70,000 to go bankrupt when you still owe the money? So you're paying 70 grand for the privilege of paying more money on top of that. Okay, here's what I've invented. If you have a corporation in Canada or the United States, in Canada, you have Canada Revenue Agency debt, you have payroll debt, you have GST debt, you've got CEBA loan debt, repayable grant debt, you have credit card debt corporate, you have bank loan debt corporate, you have leases that, I don't know, on equipment that doesn't even work anymore. You have all the above. Those are all liabilities. I buy that corporation from you. And the same thing with the states. You could have credit card debt. You could have IRS debt. You could have local state tax debt. You could have all kinds, creditor debt, all of it. I will buy your corporations from you. I'll take them away. In the deal, it's called a share sale in Canada. It's called a stock sale in the United States, where I'm buying all your shares in Canada and all your stock in the United States. We go through what's called a due diligence report. My lawyer is going to check out and see in Canada, do you have a bankruptcy claim? Do you have any litigation against you? Do you have any Royal Canadian Mounted Police investigations against you? Does the corporation hold any property? If the answer is no to all of those, congratulations, I can buy your corporation from you that day and take away all of your debt. All gone. In the United States, the due diligence report is going to pull up, again, same thing. Do you have any litigation against you in any of the 50 states? Do you have any open FBI investigations on you? Do you have any property? Do you have any outstanding fines that are punishable by prison time? These are all the things that we're looking for in the United States. If all of those answers are no, I buy your corporation from you. So we will then sit down and we will work out absolutely every single solitary you have to the penny. And you give me your own due diligence report, which is you showing me every debt that you've got. Doesn't matter who it is. You got to be honest with me on this particular part of it, because if you are not being honest because you're embarrassed or otherwise, then you might skip something. You might not actually transfer one of your debts to me. And then on that particular day, let's say you owe $500,000 combined on everything on your corporation. You're going to buy back your assets from me for 10% of the value of your entire debt, which would be, in this case, $50,000. But you get your assets back, you keep all of your cash, and you walk completely away from your debt. You get to start over in a new numbered corporation from scratch. Ta-da. And then when I own that corporation in Canada, I am most likely going to turn around and sell that thing to another company who's looking for debt for write-off. In the United States, I can't do that. I can't sell it. So I have to, at that point, cannibalize what's left of it. I also send letters out in Canada to the CRA and to the IRS in the United States, congratulating myself on being the new director, CEO, CFO, and owner of the entire corporation, and any and all paperwork and demands for payment must be directed to me. Now, this is not an easy thing to do. What I do is not easy because it comes with a very hefty price tag. And the very hefty price tag is that the Canadian government and the American government are going to ride me as much as they possibly can because they want to get their hands on the payment now of these indebted corporations that I have purchased. And, well, you know me and how I'm going to react to that. I'm going to throw every piece of legalese I possibly can at them. And eventually it will stop, probably about 2-3 years down the road. So it's a lot of work. When I take this debt on from you, you get to start over, but the paperwork just begins for me. That's okay. This is what I've signed up for. And there's no way for me to get around that paperwork. But that is something that I have chosen to do with my life, is to help the little guy and the medium-sized guy, and even sometimes the big guy, get away from all of their tax debts. We got their Liberals, Gray. Kevin, I owe CRA more than I can ever pay them. HST and income tax. What should I do? Get a hold of me. Go to my website, get a hold of me, book yourself a consultation. I want to hear your story and form a strategy. And Kent here, Maybe Kent, if you want to tell people if I'm good or not at what I do, anything you want to say, of course, is appreciated. Kent here runs the absolute #1 snow removal and landscaping company in the province of Ontario, by the way. And I can attest to that. He does a lot of work for people I care about deeply. Amazing guy. There we go. So and that's the other thing too. Yes, Kent and I do speak all the time, mainly because customer service is key. If you're hiring me and you have questions, you give me a phone call. You're either going to talk to me or one of my assistants, but I am eventually going to just call you back within 24 hours and get into what it is that we need to address. Okay. I owe $10,000 in CERB and haven't paid my taxes in 4 years. Manny, get a hold of me. CERB debt is an easy one to get rid of. No, I shouldn't say easy. It's time consuming, but there is a legal way to get rid of it, and it works 100% of the time. Okay. There we go. All right. So if you are carrying any particular type of corporate debt, I want it. Sell it to me. It's mine. I want all of you to register new numbered corporations. If you are in Canada, I will get that done for you. We can get it done within 72 hours. If you're in the United States, we can probably get it done in about 5 hours. That's the difference between Canada and the United States. I don't know, like everything in Canada is slow, everything. Oh, and when I say 72 hours, that's about the best we can do because the Canadian government, all branches of it just sucks at what they do. But the United States is all about making money now. That's why you can register corporations in the United States in about 4 or 5 hours. I think our record is 90 minutes. Just and it's all done. So God bless America for that. Now, with the corporations that you're registering, everyone, please immediately get yourselves a bank account at a bank that you have not done business with before, or at least not in the last 5 years. And after all that's said and done, get a hold of me and we're going to remove your name as the director of that corporation because we never want the CRA or the IRS coming at you for anything. Over here in Kick, I'm being asked, what about the ATO? For those who don't know, that is the Australian Tax Office. I've done no research into that so far. I got to be honest with you, pal. So if you're asking me about how Australia works tax-wise, I can tell you this. The ATO, they're out of their minds. They're as bad as the IRS, except I think a little bit crazier, if you want the truth. I don't know yet, but I'm pretty sure because most tax systems in the Western world are based off the old British tax system. It might be similar. It might be. I'm going to have to get myself some kind of a contact down there in the way of a tax lawyer or a CPA to figure that out. Australia is not really on my radar right now, but maybe one day. All right. Consumer Relations told me never to pay a collection agency. Is that true? That's correct, Denise. Never pay anything to a collection agency ever because they never take it off your credit report. It stays there for 7 years, no matter what. What you've got to do with the collection agency is you have to make a demand. You give them 15 days to reply to you to prove to you that the debt is actually yours. You want to see the contract that you signed. And you tell them that if anything is on your credit score from that, if they are unable to prove that debt, that you'll be suing them and the director and the officer, the collection officer directly, completely within your rights to do so. Collection agents, especially in Canada, have no authority of any kind. They're just useless human beings that bother people for a living. That's all that they do. So you always want to bypass the collection agency. If you have a collection agency giving you a tough time, just hire me. I'll represent you in that. And then they have no choice but to deal with me directly and send me evidence of the debt, which they never do. Not ever once. I've been doing anti-collection work off and on for about 20 years. And never once has a single solitary collection agency ever proved to me or any of my clients that there was a debt. They don't have the originals at all. Most times the creditor doesn't have the originals either. This is something that we will be counting on later on. If you ever decide you want to sue the creditor, you could owe someone money and still sue them. You know that, right? Because they're pestering you. They're bothering you. They are going to have to show that you signed the contract for that particular service. All right. Now, how does one get around that in Canada? have an alias. It's legal to have an alias in Canada. So whenever you're signing up for something, like let's say you're renting a place. So you need internet and you need electricity and water and gas and whatever else. Never use your real name. Get an alternate phone number, download Text Now, go to Text Now, download that, get a separate phone number, use that phone number for everything you do, and never use your real name when you're signing up for these bills. Not that I'm trying to convince you to walk away from your bills, but if life gets tough, the phone company, the cable company, the internet company, whomever, you can walk away from those bills in a hurry if it goes to a fake name, to a fake phone number that you can then just erase and get another one. Text Now is pretty cool. You can get a phone number for free in your state or province. And if you keep using it, you're fine. If you stop using it for 21 days or more, the number disappears. It goes back into rotation. Pretty cool, huh? So with Text Now, I pay them something like $60 a year, and I get to use the same phone number. I've had the same phone number on. Thanks, Johnny, or Dondra. Thank you for the heart. I love that. Thank you. I've been using the same number now for at least 4 years that I can think of. I think it was 2020 when I got a Text Now phone number. There's a bunch of other ones out there. There's another one where you watch ads, and for every commercial that you watch, it gives you 10 minutes of phone time. There's all kinds of stuff out there like that. So from here on in, don't use your real name when you're signing up for bills, especially on a rental property, even if it's a house you own. All you have to do is just state that you're renting. And my name is John Smith, Elmer Fudd, Clark Kent, Clark Gable. It doesn't matter what it is. Dean Kein. You can pick any name that you want. But please stop using your real name. Never use real identification, by the way. Now, I'm not the first. I'm not going to sit there and tell you to break the law. But if they ever ask for identification, they just get a fake employment letter. Go to ChatGPT and get a fake employment letter written up or something. Stop giving anybody your real name. We live in very weird times. This is not the 1970s where you could give your name and address and everything would be fine. Everyone's looking to steal from you. Everybody wants you to buy something. Everybody wants to steal your identification, your identity. Stop using your real name. Stefan, how do I deal with CERB? Hire me and it goes away. I issue all the legal letters that need to be issued to them, and we challenge them to prove that there is a debt, which they will never do because it's just a mandate they've been given by Justin Trudeau to collect as much as they possibly can. And a mandate is not legal when you're being told phone people and lie and get money from them. All right. If you're going to move out of Canada, there's a really good question there. If you're going to move out of Canada, how do you take your money with you? Well, call me. I'll get your bank account opened up in Panama. You can get Wise, W-I-S-E, wise.com, put all your money into that account and just carry your Wise card with you over the border if you like. You can get a Square.com account. You can actually have a Square.com MasterCard and use your card to just go everywhere. Stripe's another good one. PayPal reports to the Canada Revenue Agency, but PayPal does not report your balance. They just report that you have an account. So the CRA will not be able to take your PayPal balance from you, but I don't deal with companies at all that report to the CRA. So Dondra, if you need help, get a hold of me on my website. I'll tell you exactly how you get your money and your wealth out of Canada. All right. So for anybody out there who is looking to get rid of corporate debt, please get a hold of me. This system that I have created took a long time to create, but it's totally worth it. This year alone, I have now, as of today, I have bought my 40th corporation this year alone. Really nice guy, just got into debt, because the Canadian government shut his business down during the fake pandemic, all that nonsense. And he couldn't keep the doors open. And they just kept hitting him with penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty. It got to the point where the Canada Revenue Agency was charging him 50% interest on his debt. You can't come back from that. There's no way to come back from that. So he sold me his corporation. I'm not going to give you names and details. I'm just going to say that congratulations to him and to me. That's the 40th corporation I bought this year. So that's 40 corporations that the CRA is not going to get any tax dollars from whatsoever. Now, here's where it gets really cool for all of you. Because let's say you do not have a corporation that's in debt, but you know someone who does. Best friend, best lover, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, uncle, cousin, mom, dad, grandma, great-grandma, grandpa, neighbor's dog. It doesn't matter. If you know somebody who has corporate debt and you bring them to me as a client, you get 50% of the entire profit margin. 50%. The minimum you're going to get on that is $1,800. The minimum. The maximum, there's no limit. Because if somebody has $10 million in debt, they're going to be paying me $1 million to take that debt away from them. And you're going to get 500 grand minus all my legal expenses, probably something like 492,000. All right. Realistically, the vast majority of my clients are suffering with about $250,000 of debt. That's a $25,000 payout minus legal fees. You're going to get half of about 18 grand, 9 grand. Could you imagine that? What if you just jumped on the phone, everybody, and started calling corporations and bringing them to me? How about calling accounting companies, introducing yourself and saying, if you have any corporations or your clients have corporate debt, we want it. And then we can pay out the accounting company as well. Everyone gets a little bit of the action. In this particular deal, because I'm not going to say, hey, if you want to do this for a living with me, well, you got to buy my book and you got to buy a monthly membership. That's Amway stuff, man. I hate that stuff. No, there is absolutely nothing I'm going to ask for from you. I'm going to train you in how to do it. And then it's up to you. Just go do it. I think I told you this happened earlier this year. Single mother, young lady, she's not even 30 years old yet. She's brought 4 corporations to me so far. This gal's made 80 grand, $80,000 just by making phone calls, right? And it's not even October yet. So she still has a bit more time to go. Robin, you're saying I'm skipping steps? Not really. I'm not going to give all the secrets. There are certain things that, have to be proprietary. What I'm telling you, though, is that I buy corporations in debt and I pay you for finding those corporations for me. There you are. So if anyone has any idea in their head that they just want to start making money, there's no jobs. Like Canada's done, except for Kent here. Kent's hiring. So if you are a good snow removal guy or a good bobcat operator, whatnot, get a hold of Kent. He's hiring. That's in Kincardine, Ontario. But aside from Kent, who's hyper successful and hiring a lot, there's no jobs out there. There just aren't. So, but there are tax debts and there are corporations failing and there are people all over Canada and the United States completely and totally suffering. So bring them to me as a client. And you're going to get 50% of whatever the entire profit margin is. And that includes if you were to bring personal taxes to me. If a friend of yours just needs their personal taxes done, you're going to get half of the profit margin on that bill. That is how we do things here. I have opened up the floodgates now for everyone to make a piece of the pie. I'm not a greedy man. I'm content to make a little bit of money off of 10,000 people instead of everything off of one guy. It's just not how I do things. I'd like as many people out there as possible to make as much money as possible. That's what life is all about, guys. I mean, everyone says, I hate capitalism, man. No, I actually like it. I'll tell you why. Because every other governmental system that's ever been tried sucks. Socialism sucks. Communism sucks. Despotism sucks. Despotism, I think it's called. That sucks. Raw dictatorships, that never worked. We had matriarchies and patriarchies, true ones. They didn't work. Chivalry didn't work. All these systems of government have failed absolutely immensely. Capitalism is only failing right now because we have a left-wing communist contingent out there bent on breaking it down. But during its peak, 1970s, 1980s, the United States and Canada, were absolutely unbelievable. There was money on every single street corner. Back then I was DJing for $400 a night plus tips. And I was doing that 4 nights a week. Plus I had a grocery store job that paid $16.50 an hour. And this is like 1988, 89. Movies were only $3-4 back then. Gas was 40 cents a liter. So imagine just how much money all of us had in our pockets back then. I remember entrees at restaurants were only $5 back then. I mean, that's here in Panama now. But imagine in Toronto going to a restaurant called Lime Ricky's. Remember them? And paying $5 for a piece of steak and fries and some salad with a drink. Yeah. So it used to be that you'd only have to work for 22 minutes at your job to be able to have a meal in a restaurant. That was high quality. Well, those days are gone, everybody, unfortunately. So I'd like you all to consider that it's time to make a shift in what you do. If you really want to be involved with me, get a hold of me on my website. I offer training now every single week for those who want to be able to sell taxation services to the outside world. And no, you don't pay me for the course. I give it to you. You don't pay me a membership fee. You don't have to buy hand cream every month to keep your account open. It's ridiculous. Like Melaleuca, Amway, Quickstar, Isogenics, all those guys. I don't do any of that. Nothing at all. Mrs. Lobster says $5 will not even get you water. Well, in Skydome or Madison Square Garden, that's absolutely true. But 35 cents here in Panama gets you a cookie. And if you take the same 35 cents, it gets you a ride on a hyper sophisticated subway train. Cheers. Sometimes we just have to make a big shift in our lives and go where we can afford to be and go where our talents are wanted. And unfortunately, most talents are not wanted right now in Canada. All right. So if there's any questions, folks, go ahead and put them in the chat room. I'm checking Rumble right now. All right. Let's have a quick peek here. All righty. Can we talk about inheritance tax? Okay. In the United States, I know nothing about inheritance tax. I've done no research on that. But in Canada, I do. There's no such thing if you hire me. Let me explain that one. The CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency, has no clue that you're dead. They don't know. It's not like they have some kind of magical wand or crystal ball that says, Jake Johnston is dead. Let's go get his money. Do you know how they know? You tell them. That's the only way the CRA knows your mom, dad, grandma's dead. Do you know when you should report your taxes on your dead loved ones? 3 years after death. Why are you in a hurry to tell the CRA someone's dead? It doesn't make any sense at all. When you inherit something in Canada, you can actually avoid probate by doing the smart thing, and that is hiring me and then having a contract, not a will. Forget wills, they're nonsense. An actual contract drafted between your siblings and your parents. And in this, what we do is we just get a numbered corporation up and we put their homes and their gold and their silver and their collector cars, whatever they've got, everything goes to numbered corporations. And instead of a will, we just give everybody shares with very stringent rules written into the bylaws of that corporation, stating that upon death of dad, the shares split equally amongst these people. That's it. That's not even a will. This way, you avoid probate. And the house is already in the numbered corporation. So it's not like you got to pay any taxes on the house. You don't have to hire a real estate agent and move it over to anything. You don't even have to hire a lawyer because the shares just revert to you. I can set all of this up. I despise wills. Probate is ridiculous. The only time that these plans don't work is when you've got a really stupid ignoramus in the family. Now, I did go through this a couple of weeks ago. I unfortunately couldn't take the client on because one of the siblings was just so out there, screaming at the top of their lungs at not just me, but their siblings and mom and dad who were still alive. Couldn't make it work. So I said, look, I can't talk to this person. I don't care that they want to say the F word 450 times. And I don't care that they want to discuss what they think my thing size is. That's irrelevant. But we're not making money doing this. We're not getting anything done with this person lipping off. So there will be from time to time someone who's just unservable. But if the whole family can sit down and agree, then we can get all of that done in advance. Now, Justin Cringe, hey, I know who you are. How you doing, buddy? What if you have 2 or 3 houses? You contact me, okay? You don't tell anyone you got 2 or 3 houses. You do not ever report rental income on a second or third house. When you report rental income on a property, now the CRA is aware that you own it. Why would you do that? A lot of bad accountants out there will tell you, oh, you have to declare everything. If you win at the casino, you got to declare that. If you win a lottery ticket, you have to declare that. If you have an investment and you've earned interest, you have to declare it. These are really bad accountants, everybody. And if they're saying this stuff to you, they're not on your side. They are working for the Canada Revenue Agency or the IRS. Get rid of that guy and contact me instead. If you've got 2 or 3 houses, you keep your mouth closed. Let's say, though, you have 3 houses and you are married. You and your wife are in one house. Well, one of you just moves your name, your driver's license, to one of the other houses, and that's your primary residence. Or contact me for the third house. Let's say you sell the second and the third house. Well, one of you becomes the permanent resident of that, and the other one is going to be, quote unquote, traded for something different. Now, I can't really get into it because I'm down to my last 4 minutes here, but trust me when I say this, I'm the guy that you contact, because you're never going to pay capital gains on property if you hire me. There are ways around it that are completely legal. Capital gains tax, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. It's almost like they don't want you to buy property anymore. And if you own properties, commercial properties, inside of corporations, the only time you pay capital gains taxes is if you sell that property from outside of the corporation. But the whole idea of having a holding company holding that property is you don't sell the property. You just sell the piece of paper, the corporation, and the property goes with it. They don't have to do anything other than just sign the contract stating that they are now CFO, CEO, 100% shareholder, and director. And that's it. And you talk to me and my lawyer will do this for you. Cost less than 10 grand to get all that done. And then you never pay those taxes. Never pay those taxes. But let's say that you did have a property in a corporation and you've sold that property. If you want to sell me your corporation, I will take your debt away from you. All right. That's an easy one. So get a hold of me on that, please. What if the renter declares paying rent and has receipts? Merce, what you need to do if you're ever going to have a rental property is you make sure that the receipts for rent that you are writing is from, at very minimum, a proprietorship, which I don't recommend, or a corporation. You see, a corporation is allowed to be a property manager for a house, and the property management company writes all those invoices for rent. Ta-da! Now it's not a rental property. And get a hold of me, and I'll fix all that up. A woman died, left her daughter. She died on a family member. They don't want it. Okay, I'm not quite sure I understood that question there. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, if anyone has any questions about this, do get a hold of me. We're down to our last, oh my Lord. God, an hour goes fast, doesn't it? We got about a minute to go. So I just wanted to let everyone know that don't do anything in sole proprietorships ever. Please make sure you have a corporation. You have to protect yourself. Mike, good question. Property taxes in Canada are the only taxes you have to pay. That's the only one I cannot get rid of. Municipal property taxes are impossible to get rid of. But income tax, GST, CEBA loan, bank loans, credit cards, I get rid of all that stuff. None of that stuff's important at all. It's the municipal ones that are impossible. So pay your property tax, but every other tax, contact me, and they're going away because I hate the CRA. All right. I've hated them since I was 13 years of age, and they stripped my parents of 1/3 of their entire net worth. I've had that long of a vendetta. Student loans, yes, we can get rid of student loans. That will be a completely separate show in the future. My name is KevinJJohnston. Thank you very much for being here. If you want to get yourself a consultation, simply get a hold of me at KevinJJohnston.com. That's KevinJJohnston.com. And I will see you next Wednesday at the same time. This is the Real Estate Money Show with me, Kevin J. Johnston. Have a great night.